Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Manor House, and welcome to Parkinson Support and Wellness's Harvey Cheyette Spring Forum. We're pleased to see everybody here. It looks like we're going to have a full house. I'm delaying things a little bit so we can let some of the folks who are just arriving get seated. But we appreciate your coming out on this Saturday, which we hope is going to turn into a beautiful one. I want to mention just some housekeeping things. We've made one change this year. We had a request for family restroom designation. So we have designated the restroom in the lobby. When you're coming in through the front door, you'll see one of the doors is designated as a family restroom. Guys, we gave up that restroom. So if you need to go and you don't need assistance, when you leave this hall, if you turn left and go further down the hallway, you'll see another set of restrooms in the adjacent lobby that's down the hallway there. So hopefully that will work out for everybody. I hope you're enjoying breakfast, and we have a great lunch that's coming up later on today. During the day, our exhibit hall will be open. We keep the doors closed during the program, but you can go out the main door and then come back through. At lunchtime, we'll open up doors directly into the exhibit hall. We have a full room of exhibitors. These are companies and organizations that support and provide services to the Parkinson community. We encourage you to take some time today to not just wander, but engage with those folks. This day is presented by a grant from the Morris Braun Foundation, and it is dedicated to Harvey Cheyette, who was a member of our community, passed away a few years ago, and his family has generously supported us each year with a $10,000 grant for the last 6 years, and they've committed to another 4 as well. So we're deeply appreciative to the Cheyette family and their family foundation, the Morris Braun Foundation. So we have our presenters that will be speaking today. You should all have programs. Thanks to Becky and her team for putting the programs together. And you can read about each of them. But I think you'll find their presentations today are going to be both valuable and uplifting. So we hope you leave today with a greater sense of the services that are available to us, and also with Dr. Espay, he'll be talking about updates on research as it's going on at the University of Cincinnati. I also want to thank our community sponsors. Let me see. We talked about the Morris Braun Foundation, but I think it is interesting to note that their lifetime impact so far is nearly $90,000, and they're committed to, again, another $40,000. So we really do appreciate that. Our community sustaining partners, Supernus Pharmaceuticals, and you will find our sustaining partners have tables in the back of this room, so they're a little bit separate from the exhibitor hall. We appreciate their financial support. Supernus supports almost everything we do. They're at every event, and as you can see, the lifetime impact from Supernus has been nearly $100,000 over the years. So again, we appreciate their support. Amnio, another proud partner, also great friends who support us and everything that we do. Partner for 7 years, their lifetime impact of over $36,000. And finally, AbbVie, also another proud partner who has been around for a number of years supporting us in all that we do, and their lifetime impact now over $25,000. So they help to make this possible. This place is a really nice place, but it's not inexpensive. So we really appreciate their support to help us put this on. And I would encourage you to go and meet our friends at their tables, talk with them about their products and how they might help you. And if you would, join me for just a quick round of applause for them. Thank you. Elite Comfort has proudly donated 5 care certificates to be used for home care, respite care, et cetera. If you did not get a raffle ticket, if you're interested in being part of the raffle, there are raffle tickets out in the main lobby. Look for Bob. He's sitting at the Steady Strides table, and I'll give you Steady Strides commercials later, I promise. But we'll be drawing after lunch for the winners on that. So at least before you have lunch, if you're interested, get a raffle ticket and put it in the basket back there. And then finally, this may be a surprise to Maureen. Most of you, if not all of you, know Maureen Gartner. She's probably the most recognizable person in the Parkinson community. She served our community for 23 years, and earlier this month, she retired from the University of Cincinnati Health. We're happy to say that she has also been an important member of our board of directors, and she's not retiring from the organization. There's Maureen. So Maureen, thank you for everything you've done over the years. Maureen, in addition to being on the board, in addition to being part of the executive committee, she also chairs our program committee. The program committee is responsible for this and all of our educational programs. So thanks to Maureen and also to the members of her committee, who are all volunteers and work all year long to put this event together. You may notice that we have hearts on the table. What we'd like you to do is, if you would like to fill out that heart with a personal message to Maureen, we're going to gather those later, and at the end of the day, we will give her a basket full of hearts. So if she's touched your life in a positive way, and I know so many of us would say that has been going on for a long time, if you could write something down and bring them up and you can bring them up and put them in this basket. And again, we'll present a basket full of hearts to Maureen a little bit later. So those are the hearts. Okay, so it's time to get into the program. It looks like the rush has ended, so enjoy your refreshments, your continental breakfast as we get started. But our keynote speaker today is Veronica Sterling, and I'm not going to read through her whole bio. You will see a write-up for her in our program. But Veronica is the former CEO of Hospice of Southwest Ohio, and she has developed a purpose-driven message on leadership, resilience, and navigating change. With over 20 years of executive experience, she created the commitment compass that she's going to tell us about this morning. Without further ado, I'll ask Veronica to come up, and we'll get our program started. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoy a good day.
Hello. Thank you so much for letting me come here and spend some time with you this morning. Okay, so I have learned in my professional life and in my personal life that it seems like anytime there is some big change or a new challenge that shows up in our path, a bunch of people come along and they have advice. Oh, my clicker doesn't work. Well, my clicker's not working. I am not going to stand up here today and give a bunch of advice to you. And I heard some of you chuckle when I said that. So you all know who these people are that I'm talking about, right? And they do have good intentions when they share their advice with us. So we are grateful. But my hope today is to share a bit of my story with you, some of my personal story, as well as some of the lessons that I've worked through the learned through the work that I've done. Because I do think that sometimes a change comes along in our life that is, it's like it's so significant, it just sort of takes the ground right up underneath us and it just shifts us into a completely different path. For some of you here today, that shift was a Parkinson's diagnosis, and for others, it's a shift into this new role of being a caregiver. And this is why I think that the advice doesn't always fit, because it's like everyone comes along with this map and they say, hey, here, just do these things. This will help get you back on the right path. But you know that the path has shifted so much that back isn't always available to you. So I'm just going to drop you right into a pretty wild part of my story. In 2018, my husband and I decided that we were going to renovate a vintage Airstream motorhome and travel to all 63 national parks. This was, well, some people in our lives said it was foolish. And maybe it was, because we had never owned any kind of camper or motorhome before. You can't actually drive to every national park. We found our Airstream on Craigslist, and we drove out of town. We handed over our cash for this Airstream dream, and it broke down on our first drive home. We spent over 3 years completely gutting and renovating this motorhome. It was so much more work than we ever thought it was going to be. I'm glad that we were so naive when we started it. There were faulty wires, there was water damage. The first time we put gas in it, it just spilled out onto the ground underneath. But I am so happy to tell you that we did it. In the last 4 years, we've traveled over 40,000 miles together. We've visited 40 national parks. In 3 weeks from today, we're leaving again. We're taking a 2-month trip, and we're going to see a dozen more. So if you were worried that a former hospice CEO would stand up here and just be talking about death and grief, I want to assure you that my story has taught me to focus more on living a meaningful life, and that's what I try to spend the most time talking about. Not all of my story is about this old hunk of aluminum, right? I have 20 years of experience working in senior living and senior care operations. And at the pinnacle of that career, I was the CEO of a hospice company. So I had this really unique opportunity for my whole life to always be able to have these conversations with people who were, 85, 90, 105 years old. And I loved it. They would always share advice and stories with me, but it came from this place of sort of looking back and reflecting on their own life. And there's lessons in there that they shared with me over and over again. Don't wait until you get older to find your purpose. Figure out how you want to live your life and live it now. I didn't always listen to that lesson, but I did start to notice that there were like these two parallel conversations that I was having. On one hand, I was renovating this old Airstream, and people would come and they would reveal to me a dream that they have about their life, and they would share something that they yearn to change, and they wanted to know how we pulled this off. Because they were trying to find a way to navigate forward for themselves. Of course, then in this other set of conversations, I was talking to people who were navigating illness, caregiving, grief. They were dealing with changes that none of us want to have in our life. And yet they were also looking for a way to navigate forward. And seeing those parallels, for me, that is where this idea of the commitment compass truly emerged. And I like to think of it as a compass because I have not found a perfect map for life that tells me everywhere to go. If there is anyone here that does have a perfect map for life, please come see me later. I have a lot of follow-up questions. But a compass, it always points north, doesn't it? Even when the terrain changes, even if we find ourselves being routed in a different way. And I believe that our true north, our purpose, it's always there for us. We just have to keep ourselves calibrated to align our life with it. For that to happen, the commitment compass has 3 conditions that must be working. One is clarity, which is being able to identify what truly matters in our life, even when the season changes, even when there's pressure that can shake all of that up, being able to say, what do I truly value in this season that I'm in now? That second condition of the compass is capacity. It's making the space to be able to pursue the things that matter most to us. And then finally, there is courage. Courage sort of moves past reflection. Courage is about taking some small action and being willing to pursue the purpose and pursue that path, even if it feels a little unclear sometimes. So, like I said, I won't give you a bunch of advice, but I am here to share a little bit more of my story with you through this framework of clarity, capacity, and courage, and also to offer you an invitation, some prompting for some of your own reflections to see if there is opportunity to recalibrate your compass towards your purpose. Okay? So the first element is clarity. And we can have clarity in our lives without having complete certainty. I learned that during the Airstream renovation. I didn't exactly know how I was going to get from this old motorhome to this national park adventure. And I certainly didn't know how much that pursuit would end up changing my whole life. And that's okay. Clarity really is just being able to identify some of your values. And there are values that we aspire to, but there are values that we also know that we're going to rely on when times are tough and we have to really make a decision under pressure, and those are the most important values. The thing I've learned about grief is that it can really just blur all of that, doesn't it? And I think that we oversimplify grief sometimes. We tend to just think of grief as, being sad because someone died. But grief is so much more than that. The precursor to grief, it's not death, it's loss. And so there are all kinds of experiences in our life that can have this grief and that can create this disruption. An illness, becoming a caregiver, that means we might be losing some of our freedom, losing our sense of vitality, our expectations for the future. Divorce, a friend's betrayal, these all can have grief attached to them. There's also experiences in our life that aren't inherently bad, but they can also have a loss that's adjacent. Retiring, becoming an empty nester, moving away from our childhood home. These are joyful experiences, but there's still some grief that we can feel there. So when I teach people about grief, I like to imagine there's all these different layers. There's your identity, your values, your purpose, your relationships. and they all sort of fold up on top of one another, and then they just sort of form right into who we are as a person. But when the disruption comes along and the grief happens, it's like all of those layers get pulled apart, and some of them just get completely ripped away. And that is why there's such a disruption. That's why grief can actually be really frustrating, because over time we have to sort of find these layers again. In some places we have to replace the layers completely and then work to put them back together. This is why reflecting on our values and what truly matters in a new season is so important, because that's what we want to put our attention in, and that's what we want to give our energy to. The funny little trick about having clarity in our values is it helps us expand our capacity, because the more clear we become about the things that are important to us, the easier it is to spot all of those other things we're holding on to that we might feel like it's time to put down and let go of in our life. So I want to share with you just a couple of reflection prompts that you can consider to help you think about the clarity that you'd like to build in your own life. What feels most important for me to protect this season? And what do I want to stay connected to or savor even as things continue to change? We did give you little worksheets. I won't give you a homework assignment, but if you, that would be really mean for me to give you a homework assignment on a Saturday morning. But these are just a couple of reflections that you're invited to consider today. And I will tell you another story. I'm going to tell you about this woman. This is my husband's grandmother, Mabel. She is one of those people in my life who was always giving me that lesson to live your life now. Find what's important to you now and go after it. Mabel was awesome. She lived to be 99 years old. She traveled to over 65 countries. Mabel was a secretary for a general in World War II, and she joined the Army so she could travel and see the world. So these are some old shoebox photos I found of China, Indonesia, South Africa. She really went everywhere. And she inspired a lot of interest in travel adventure for my husband and I too. And so, we'd take a little trip here and there. I'd always be working somehow on that trip. I was never fully engaged, I thought that I had it all figured out, right? I thought I was pursuing this adventure and doing things I liked and really heeding Mabel's advice for me. At some point, I had to face the music. I was really chasing this progressive checklist for my life, and it was building a lot of success for me, but there was a question that I had to ask about the cost. And then in 2018, my mom died. And she was only 63 years old. And she died actually about a month before we bought the Airstream. And in my final conversation with her, I wanted her to know, that I had, made it, that I was going to be okay. And I sat there and I told her all about this progressive checklist. Well, that didn't make the connection with her, right? That wasn't what she had hoped I would achieve in my life. It certainly wasn't the lesson that Mabel and so many other people were sharing with me. And so what became very clear to me is that I had to start figuring out what I really valued and how I could find a way to pursue it. It still seems kind of crazy to me that buying this Airstream and renovating this vehicle to make even more time to travel would be the path that I was on. But I do think that somewhere in there it also was like I was renovating my life a little bit. Like maybe this 14,000-pound hunk of aluminum was a metaphor for how I should be living. I learned in the work that one of the values that's most important to me is how I spend my time and becoming more intentional with it. And truly, I mean, even scraping the rust off of the frame while we were building meant that I had to be spending my time intentionally. So that work, that realization of the value was happening even before we ever took our first trip. And so that is what happens when we build clarity, or we just naturally start spending our time doing this thing that becomes more important to us. And then we start to feel the capacity expand. I had no idea how much capacity would expand in this project for me. I thought that I would take some pretty cool vacations. I had no idea I would end up selling a house and moving into a different home because my HOA wouldn't let me have this camper in the driveway. Changing my career, standing here and telling all of you about this silly story. I had no idea that this was what was waiting for me in my life. And that's why I say that clarity in your values doesn't require certainty. But if you just continue going with it, you can be really surprised, I think, at any season of your life to find out what can happen. So the two work in tandem, and I think now we will spend a little time talking more about capacity. And I promised you that I wouldn't give you any advice, but I did find myself worrying that I would simply just stand up here and tell you a story with a few photos, and maybe that would be fun. But asking you to reflect on how you can make more time for your values or have more energy to do something that you enjoy, it felt like a big ask without looking for some of the smallest opportunities to share for how we could possibly expand our capacity. So I like to read a lot, so I started getting into the research to see what can we do to expand our capacity, and I came up with this list of micro moments of energy, like stress relieving things that we could do. And I thought, okay, I promise no advice, but this still sounds kind of fun to share. If you're a caregiver in this room, or if you love someone who's a caregiver, I think it's especially important to focus on capacity, energy, and micro moments to reduce stress. Because I do think that we forget sometimes how much work and how much of a stress load is placed on a caregiver. 25% of caregivers are more likely than others to experience depression. 53% of caregivers will develop 2 or more chronic illnesses in their own life. Caregivers, 4 out of 10 say that they don't just have stress sometimes, but they're experiencing a sustained level of stress. That means that a caregiver really doesn't have a lot of energy to give. So stress is kind of this funny thing in our body, right? There is a difference between stress and stressors. The stressor can be anything. Filing our taxes, the hot water heater breaks, developing an illness, becoming a caregiver, having to resolve an interpersonal conflict with our friend. These are all stressors. And they create this stress in our body. And sometimes it's just a simple little, okay, we have to file our taxes. That is stressful. It completes, and so does this stress cycle in the body. But some stressors stick with us for a long time. And when that happens, that means the stress sticks with us for a long time. And even though there's this huge list of things that can be the stressor, the stress is pretty simple. There's only so much that can happen. Your heart rate's going to go up and down, your blood pressure gets higher and lower, lab values change. That's pretty much it. So that's why I thought, okay, what can we do to sort of siphon off some of the stress, even when we can't get rid of the stressor? And I found a few things. Okay, number one is move your body. It's everyone's least favorite because it's what they've been telling us our whole life, right? Take a walk, go jumping, do a blah, 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 blah. But these are micro moments. So when we talk about a micro moment to siphon off some stress, we're talking about shaking our leg, shaking our arm a little bit, wiggling our fingers. That gives our body just a little bit of movement. And when we can move our body in any way freely, it triggers like instinctively, hey, I think I'm in a safe place right now. If you saw me back there earlier talking with our cameraman, you would have seen me just shaking my leg a little, trying to get ready to come up here. Breathing is another micro moment. The thing about breathing is we're taught to do, box breathing or to take deep breaths when we feel stressed. I am going to encourage you to consider doing deep breathing when you don't feel stressed because it can help just kind of lower that level in our body before it starts to get too high. Belly laughs and big old cries actually release all of the stress in our body. So if you feel like you've just got to cry and get it all out, well, good. You might actually feel a little better after. And there's bonus points if your belly laugh is happening with another person, because social connection is one of the best ways that we can relieve stress. When we have a social connection with other people, it releases all these hormones in our brain, and it just makes us feel good. And if you feel like you don't have time for the social connection, the next time you go to lunch, tell your waitress that you really like her earrings. Or at the grocery store, talk to the cashier and tell her that you hope she has a really great day. That creates these micro moments of a really happy connection with somebody that can also tell us that we can still have faith in humanity, that we can still spend time connecting with other people. I put affection up here, and I'm going to tell you that the micro moment for stress reduction that I found is a 20-second hug. This is a researched thing, not a little pat on the shoulder, but a real, a real hug, a head on the shoulder, 2 arms around. There's this research that says if we can stay in that awkward, that would be awkward for a minute, wouldn't it? 20-second hug. If we can stay in that space for that whole time, it is long enough to release those same kinds of hormones and tell our body, hey, I'm in a safe place right now. And it can also lower the stress and help complete the stress cycle. The last one is a creative expression. This is where the brain's a pretty funny thing. If we can spend time doing something that's creative and focus on that, it uses a different part of our brain, and in the background, the brain can still think through and work on that thing that's causing so much stress. And we can return to that later at a lower stress level, which I think is pretty cool. So finding time to do all of this, I know, can still be a struggle. But this is where thinking about our capacity as a personal reflection becomes even more important. Because in that moment of reflection, we might ask ourselves, what feels heavy or draining to me that I might be able to loosen my grip on? What am I trying to still hold and control that doesn't matter? And if I can let go of that, can I expand my capacity for that creative expression, for the social connection and the thing that is more important to me? Another reflection for ourselves when we're thinking about expanding our capacity is to ask, who lifts me up? Who is that person that I actually want to hug for 20 seconds or have that big old belly laugh or big old cry with? Knowing who those people are is paramount to having success and meaning in our life. And then, of course, all of this leads to courage. And courage is less about reflection and more about action, even the smallest action towards taking a step forward on our path. Courage is resilient. The path that many of you are on is a very resilient pursuit. And resilience is frustrating. That's it. It's very frustrating because we're always navigating how to move forward, how to find meaning again on this changing path, how to pull all those layers back up and place them together and make them a part of us. That's a lot of figuring out. And I don't think we're given enough credit for the effort that a resilient pursuit actually takes from all of us. But courage isn't just about trying to push through. It's not about saying, oh, I can handle this stress, I can do it on my own, and I can just, no matter what the cost, I can just keep going ahead. Courage is really about finding a way to move forward. Courage is believing, even in a disruption, even when clarity is suffering. Courage is believing that there is still space in our life for purpose, and that there is a possibility of pursuing that purpose in a new and sustainable way. So this is where reflection does turn into action. And where even though the disruption comes along and it can hijack our ability to commit to ourselves, there still is a way for us to reroute and realign with our compass and move back towards it. So the questions here are more about action and less about reflection. What is one small step that I can take next week to honor what's most important? What is one boundary or adjustment that would make my life feel more sustainable? How can I ask for help? Now that I know who lifts me up, what is a sentence that I can say out loud and have at the ready when I know that I need more help in my life? I don't believe that having a purposeful life means that we have a life that is free of stress or free of grief. I believe that it's building a life that is big enough to have room for both. And it doesn't always seem like there can be room for both, but that's not what my work taught me. Certainly, that's not what I learned while working with a hospice organization. I mean, I could walk down the hallway and see a family at a bedside. They're holding hands, they're crying. Continue walking, and a few minutes later, I hear laughter just erupt from the room. I can think of so many times where, there is a husband and his wife has dementia, and he is so broken because he misses her. But his whole face will light up when he talks about how they first met. So in my work, I saw over and over again that at the end of life, there is space for grief and joy. And what that's taught me is if that is true, there must also be space for both in the middle of our life as well. It really changed my view of everything. So let's close today. I'll share one last travel picture with you. She says it's dangerous. I want to close our time together reflecting back on the same idea where we started. It's the idea of a compass. See, a compass always points north, and your true north, that purpose, is always inside you. And yes, sometimes life will shift. Sometimes something will happen and move all of the ground and disrupt everything in a way that we never expected. And yes, we will wonder, is there space here? Is there energy for me to deal with this and also still connect with the things and the people I love? Is there room for me to navigate this and still stay true to my own values and my own self as everything around me feels like it's changing? I believe the answer is yes. Your compass, it doesn't promise any certainty, and it doesn't offer a quick fix. That compass won't push you forward. But if you can look to it, if you can think about your clarity, naming what truly matters most to you in your life now, build your capacity to have some energy to pursue that. And then finally, find the courage to take even the smallest step forward. Then when you look to your compass, I believe that even as the terrain has changed, even if the path sometimes seems unclear, you will be able to look ahead and find your true north. Thank you. So thank you so much. So I am going on my biggest trip in 3 weeks. For 2 months, my husband and I are going to spend our whole life in a 27-foot-long camper together. Please say a prayer for me. But if you like to follow stories like that, you can click here. You can find me on my website or on any Facebook, et cetera. I'd love to have some people cheer me along. But thank you so much for being here.
So I don't know, do I need the microphone? Yes? Okay. So, thank you, Veronica, and I believe that you have some papers that Veronica distributed, that we distributed on the table, and part of our plan was just for each of you at the table to reflect on some of those thoughts and maybe discuss them for a few minutes, and then we will wrap it up. If there are any questions, we could take some questions. Yes? And
So somebody might have picked up the cell phone at the Parkinson's table. I'm going to call it.
oh, okay. So this is interesting. We have a cell phone that has been misplaced. So Maureen is going to call that cell phone. If you hear it ringing at your table, if you hold your hand up, we'll come and retrieve it.
Or if you just look in your bag, that maybe when you picked up something from Parkinson's Support and Wellness, that you picked up the cell phone as well. Nobody, I don't hear any ringing. Okay. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, so we'll take a few minutes for discussion and reflection, and then if there are questions that you'd like to ask, you can raise your hand and we will come around and get those questions from you. And then shortly after that, we're going to have our first exercise session. And this one will be where you will have a chance to get your yah-yahs out. So hold on, we'll be back in a few minutes. As a Mike Myers character used to say, talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, everybody. We're going to wrap it up and invite Arlene Da Silva up. I can already hear you all on your drums. So we're in for a good, exciting exercise break. Arlene?
Thanks, Maureen. I think I can hear the drums already. Looks like you're all ready to go. Okay, but hold that beat for 1 minute. No, 1 second. So I'm Arlene Da Silva, and I'm with the Cincinnati Music and Wellness Coalition. We take 2 programs, and one is the drumming program we brought here today. We're just going to do a sample of what this program is about. The program was actually innovated by a neurologist, Dr. Barry Bittman. So it has the research to show engaging in the program gives us a lot of health outcomes. This is about music making for health. So I think it looks like you're all ready to go, and I should basically be quiet. Yes? Excellent. So, but I do want to say we have the program here in Cincinnati, and we also offer it in Dayton. So if you would like more information about it, we have a table. Come stop by and see us. And now I'm going to move it to Molly. Molly is one of our facilitators, so she's going to take you through some other, if you come over here, and we'll take you through a few fun activities. Thank you.
All right, what Arlene didn't tell you is that this drumming thing, we're not going to teach you how to drum. We're going to teach you how to feel drumming. So the idea is that you don't have to know anything about drumming in order to do this. It's not a drum lesson. It's not about learning how to drum. It's more about what you feel and how you express yourself with the drum. And so the first thing that we're gonna, yeah, very good, there you go. So it's more about, expressing yourself with the drumming and the music and letting the music speak for you. A lot of times when you have some sort of an illness, or even if you're just having a bad day, maybe you don't feel like talking, but you can let the drum speak for you. You can let your emotions come out with the music. And as a music teacher, I know I work with children, sometimes I work with adults, and this is a way to kind of let your emotions go a little bit, and you don't have to be verbal to do that. So what we're going to do today with our drums is we're going to let our drums do the talking, okay? So what I want to do right now is I just want to start a beat on the drum, and I'm going to ask you to copy that beat, and then I'm going to walk around because I've got a drum that I can walk with. And I'll start a beat, and I want you to just copy what I'm doing or do the best you can. And it's okay if you don't get it right away. I'm going to do something pretty simple. And then when I'm going to walk around, and I'll stop in a minute. I'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll stop. And I'll try to be as loud as I can because it's a big room, and I don't want to stay up here with the microphone. And then when I get to that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we pause, I'm going to ask somebody else to start a beat. And then we'll copy that beat for a little while, and we'll move on. And we'll do this 3 or 4 times to give people a chance to express themselves with the drumming. How does that sound? Thumbs up? Okay, so I'm going to start a beat, and you guys just copy along. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Arlene.
One thing I forgot, I'm not sure we brought enough drums for everyone. So if you don't have a drum, have no fear, use the table.
Oh, that's true. Yep.
There you go. Yes. Thank you.
Yep. Tap the table, tap your knee, clap your hands, whatever you feel like doing. Make a little noise. If it gets too loud for some people, feel free to step outside. We don't want anybody to get overwhelmed or overstimulated. Okay, so we're going to start out with a really simple beat.
Okay, so you had, how was that? So let's do something else now. I would like you, so drumming is great for us. Drumming is good for our immune system. The research shows that. Now let's do a little bit of relaxing, calming. And if you would just feel free to close your eyes if you would like. You don't have to, but just kind of listen to the sounds. Okay, how was that? You want one of those? Everywhere we go with this, everyone's like, I want that ocean. So that's an ocean drum. It is actually called an ocean drum. It really feels like you can also really make it into a rough ocean, or it could be a relaxing ocean. So, all right, so let's do a little more drumming. And this time, one of the steps of this program is called rhythmic naming. And again, there's no right or wrong to playing. It's creating, it's yours to create. This is not a music lesson. So I would like to ask someone if they would like to say their name and play a rhythm, whatever you want to say, that's my name on the drum. Any takers? Don't be shy. Excellent. Thank you. Would someone else like to do that? It's simple. It's yours to create. No takers? Oh, there is? Okay, go ahead.
Right.
We heard you, Royce. Yes, thank you. How about one more? Oh, somebody did. Oh, perfect. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so to finish off, Molly, let's do a little more drumming. Let's get it moving.
Let's see, shall I do the popular one?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Great.
Okay, I see some hearts getting deposited in the basket. Got a good start. I want to remind everybody, we also have evaluations for the day's programs on the tables. Before you leave today, if you take a few minutes to fill those out, our program committee deeply appreciates your input as they will start on Monday morning working on next year's spring forum. So your thoughts about our presenters and our program today, and then also any thoughts that you might have on things you'd like to see in the future. Let's see if I can make this work. Oh, I can. I think. So I thought what I'd do is take just a couple of minutes to do a Parkinson support and wellness commercial. Most of you probably know about our organization, but if there are any that do not know, we were incorporated in December of 2015. We were formerly the tri-state chapter of the American Parkinson's Disease Association. Most people in this area, when they hear tri-state, they think Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. We were Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. Think about the logistics of that one being all the way in on the Ohio River. But the group felt that while the work that the American Parkinson's Disease Association does is important, we were contributing and we weren't getting much back, and we weren't seeing much in terms of return to the Parkinson community here locally. So the organization decided to incorporate as Parkinson Support and Wellness, with a focus on three major parts of our mission, but it's all wrapped around regional service. We are not part of any national organization. We are lucky to be associated unofficially with the Gardner Center and UC Health, but our mission is to provide resources to this community. Educational, we break our mission down into three pieces. We call them learning, moving, and sharing. Learning is education about the disease for the Parkinson's community and for the community at large. So we do some in-service trainings at medical schools, nursing schools, et cetera, to introduce them a little deeper to Parkinson's disease. Our moving has to do with exercise, and as you may know, part of the reason for our existence is we raise money to promote more opportunities for physical therapy and other therapies around Parkinson's and specific to Parkinson's. Each year we have 2 rounds of financial grants, spring and fall, and in case anybody's thinking about it, spring is now closed. Our grant committee wanted me to make sure everybody knows that April 15th is the deadline for grant requests in the spring, and October 15th in the fall. Our board has budgeted again this year north of $140,000 for us to provide in those financial grants. We have somewhere between 20 and 30 individual organizations that apply and receive grants. And last year, we had budgeted $140,000. We distributed $139,800 of those. So our big fundraiser is in the fall. It's Steady Strides, and I'll do a commercial on Steady Strides a little bit later as well. But finally, so that's our contribution to exercise. If you go on our website, you can see a matrix of providers of Parkinson-specific therapies in our region, which has continued to grow. We now actually provide opportunities as far south as Lexington, Kentucky, and as far north as Findlay, Ohio. So the word has gotten out, we've got money. So we're getting requests from further and further afar. But if you go on our website, parkinsoncincinnati.org, you can see under the Moving tab, exercise classes. We break those classes down in a matrix by day of the week, by geography, neighborhood, if you will, and then also by type and whether or not it is in person, by appointment, or virtual. So we encourage you to go to parkinsoncincinnati.org and look at under the Moving tab for those. We also support what we call the third leg of our mission, the sharing, and that is we provide support to support groups. We try and help with training for facilitators. We also work to market and advertise where those support groups are. Same method. If you go to our website, look under sharing, you will see support groups. And again, they are by day of the week, by location, and by type. During the pandemic, a lot of our support groups couldn't meet in person. So we went out and bought a good-sized license from Zoom and started making our Zoom platform available to support groups. As we got out of the pandemic, a lot of those support groups went back to meeting in person, but we found that there were a number of folks who really liked the idea of meeting virtually. You don't have to get up, you don't have to get out, leave the house. So we've continued 2 virtual support group sessions. They're on the second Monday of each month. One for caregivers at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, one for persons with Parkinson's at 3. They're run by Mary Beth Bialik, who is on our staff as a social worker. Most of you at some point or another, if you've been involved with the Gardner Center or with our organization for any length of time, you probably know Mary Beth. Got it, thank you. All right. So they want me to wrap up the commercial here pretty quickly. Just so that you know that our organization is a small one. From the standpoint of paid staff, I am one of 3, and we all are paid for 20 hours a week. So we're not full-time, we don't have a big staff, we don't spend a lot of money on administration. What we are fortunate to have is more than 100 volunteers who give their time on committees such as the Program Committee, the Financial Grant Committee, Steady Strides, putting all of these programs and efforts together. We are deeply grateful to all of those volunteers, and we invite anyone who's looking for an opportunity to get a little more involved in the community, in the Parkinson community. There's lots of easy things you can do, whether it's at home or in our office, whatever. Please get in touch with us. Again, parkinsoncincinnati.org is probably the best way to do that. So let's finish up with the commercials. We'll come back to Steady Strides. I want to introduce our next presenter, Stuart Solomon, who is the owner and chief everything officer for his company, Senior Resources. And Stuart will have an interesting discussion about continuum of care and how to wade through the services that can be available to you, especially from a residential or living standpoint. We will have questions afterwards, so and then after that, we'll get ready for lunch. So, Stuart, you want to come up?
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Working with Parkinson's Sport and Wellness, our organization has been helping and providing resources for a number of people and helping this organization through the years. So we're really, really excited to continue our relationship with PSW, and I'm happy to be speaking with you guys today to just give you a little information about Senior Housing 101 and what that looks like for people. So just a little bit about me. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised. I grew up in Blue Ash and moved about, a half mile away. I live in Montgomery now. I went to Ohio University, go Bobcats for those Bobcats out there, and studied healthcare administration. Then I went on to Xavier to get my master's in health administration. So my background is I'm a nursing home administrator, and then I ran assisted living memory care communities for about 12 years before starting Senior Care Partners. I started that about 6 years ago in my basement, and now we've gone up to the guest bedroom. So we now have a window, which is very nice, and yes, and so we cover all of Cincinnati. We have 2 reps. Linda's here today, wherever she may be, and then Shelly, who's on the west side, and then Amanda in Indianapolis, and Russ, who's in Dayton. So that's just a little bit about us and kind of the where we can help people. Okay, so what is the right time for senior housing? And I'll tell you this, no one wakes up and says, you know what, today is the right time to move to senior housing. Usually we have to have, as it was put today, that come to Jesus moment where it is inevitable that you may need some additional support. So, we really broke it down to 3 different things. Safety is our primary concern. How many people are caregivers in this room? If you just want to raise your hand very quickly. So according to the Assisted Living Association of America, over 60% of our caregivers pass away before the people that they are providing care for. So there is a big, listen, it's the stats. I don't come up with them. I just tell you. And safety is not, and why I say safety for all, it's safety for all. Not just the person who is requiring care, but for the safety of that person providing the care as well. As I say to people, the person who is in need is going to receive care, whether it's from a spouse, whether it's from a family member, or whether it's in an assisted living or some type of residential community, they're going to receive the care. But that caregiver, they don't always receive the care that they need, or they overlook themselves in the care that they need. So that's why I like to say safety for all, but safety too from a cognitive decline standpoint. I had a client recently who we found on Montgomery Road at 2 a.m. So, there's obviously some safety concerns there. With Parkinson's, the dexterity in your fingers, maybe not being able to grab your medications appropriately or forgetting medications. That and just, slip, trips, and falls. It's really a lot of different things that is covered in safety. So mental health, social isolation, that's one of the biggest issues that we see in our seniors is that people are not getting out. They have a need, and they're not being as social as they could be, and not living a fulfilled life, or as much as they could. We see a lot of times when we have people move into communities, once they're engaged in that community, once they're getting their medication regularly, once they're having 3 meals a day, we really see a huge increase in that person's livelihood. And it's really important to get all those things, and it's really, that social isolation can be a really, really big issue for our seniors. And simplicity of life, that's more for our independent living residents who, they don't want to rake leaves anymore. They don't want to work in the garden anymore. They don't want to take out the trash. I know I look forward to that. I live in the city of Montgomery, and they don't collect my leaves, so I have to bag them every fall. And I probably bag about 50 bags of leaves. So I look forward to that simplicity of life sometime in the future. I need a lot of help. Trust me. So I like to do a case study as we go through this because it's kind of boring to just listen to me drone on about stats and figures and things like that. I already tried to throw out a stat there and I got booed, so we just like to give a little case study. So George, he's a very social 83-year-old living alone in Cincinnati. He has a house that's 2 stories with his bedroom upstairs, washer and dryer in the basement. So we can already tell going up and down stairs, that could be an issue. He no longer drives and relies on people to pick him up. Recently, his friends have been less and less available, that social isolation. George has a daughter that helps with small items while working and caring for her own family. So she sets up medication reminders, helps with groceries, takes him to appointments. George has a history of falls due to high blood pressure. He has diabetes that he monitors himself and takes medications in the morning and at night, but has become forgetful, that safety issue. So let's talk about Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurance. Honestly, I could sit up here and talk about 3 hours about these individual things. These are just a very generic overview. Medicaid, that is a asset-based. So when someone doesn't have the funds and they're under a certain asset level, they can use Medicaid as an insurance or potentially as a resource for them to live in a community. There is Medicaid for people under 65, usually those with some type of disability. Medicare, that's for people over 65 or an advanced renal failure. There are 4 parts to it. The Part A, which would be your hospital stays, which would be your skilled nursing stays, which would be potentially some home care as well. Your Part B, which is your outpatient therapy, doctor's visits, things like that. And then Part C is their Medicare Advantage. So that's if you have an Advantage plan, it actually comes out of Part C. And then Part D is the medication plan. They have closed the donut hole, which is nice. So it's a little more encompassing than what it has been in the past. And then private insurance is private insurance, similar to the insurance that you would get from your employer, things like that. Now, Medicare does have Medicare only covers certain things. There is that private supplemental insurance that you can buy, AARP, Aetna, Humana, the laundry list of companies. So let's meet George again. He was stepping out of the shower and fell. He lives alone. He was unable to make a phone call. His daughter discovered him on the floor after she was unable to reach him, and he was sent to the hospital via EMS. So a personal story, my grandmother, same idea. She had a stroke in her kitchen, laid there for almost 24 hours. And that's just the scary things that can happen at any point, at any time. So George and my grandmother are not alone. We deal with that on a daily basis. So how does a person qualify for their Medicare benefits? And how does a patient know where to go? So to qualify for a skilled nursing stay, you have to have spent 3 midnights in inpatient hospital. So you can't just be in a observation for 3 nights. You have to be admitted into the hospital for 3 midnights. So that's when you can then use your skilled nursing benefit, which is through your Part A Medicare. Skilled nursing is a short-term stay, usually in a traditional nursing home. They focus on the physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. Like I said, it's covered through that Part A or private insurance. So what you see usually is the traditional nursing home. They'll have a wing that is primarily rehab people going through therapy, but they need that additional support. And then they'll have a long-term care side. So that long-term care side is people's permanent living situation. So that's where they live on a day-to-day basis. Usually it's because one of 2 things. Their needs are too high and they can no longer qualify for assisted living, or they cannot afford assisted living. So what medical needs are above assisted living? Any IV medications, wounds that are above a stage 3, usually any feeding tubes, really anything that enters the body, any foreign object that enters the body, assisted living is no longer able to meet that need, and you would need to be in a long-term care setting. George again. He had successful hip surgery. He goes to the skilled nursing facility and is doing well. So rehab, what does that really look like? It's usually about an hour to 2 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. And it's really focusing on getting back to your new or your baseline, potentially a new baseline. His daughters noticed that dad has become more forgetful after surgery, which is very common with going under anesthesia. And he's getting out of bed without pressing his button. Again, that safety issue. Additionally, he's been using her mother's name when talking to her. That cognitive decline has, especially after going under, has diminished. So what options does he have after discharge? And how does he maintain the progress that he's made? And when someone is going to be discharged from a rehab facility, usually you've plateaued. And I use walking as a good example. You've walked 50 feet one day, 55 the next day, 60 the next day. You're making that incremental progress. Once you've hit 60 and now it's 59, 58, 61, you've kind of hit that plateau. And that's usually when a discharge is coming. And that's what they look for when discharging residents. So home health versus private duty care. A big misconception. A lot of people confuse the two. Honestly, sometimes I confuse the two, and at least in the name. So home health is when the therapy company comes to your home and continues your therapy. That's basically outpatient therapy that's coming to your home. That's continuing with your physical therapy. That's continuing with your occupational therapy and potentially your speech. And then, each company may have some additional services, nursing services, wound care, things like that. So that's all covered by your insurance. There may be a small copay related to it, but it's all covered by your Medicare or supplemental insurance. Private duty home care, very different, but people confuse the two often. This is aides coming to your house throughout the week. Most companies require a minimum, usually 4 hours, 12 hours a week. I'm sure there are some vendors who do a little bit different, but that's by and large about what they're looking for. They help with ADLs, helping with taking showers, medication reminders, transfer assistance, making meals, grocery shopping, some light housekeeping. So some of those types of things that you need on a day-to-day basis. The schedule is determined by the client. You can have, what we recommend for people who are coming out of the hospital or even rehab is let's start high. And then as we've established what your needs are at home, then we can start to pare that back to make sure that you're getting the care that you need, but also we're not spending an astronomical amount. The average cost, this is increased. It increases every day. I've seen as low as 24 and I've seen as high as 38. So on average, it's about, if you had 24-hour private duty care, it's about $20,000 a month. So save your pennies. That's my recommendation. So what is independent living? Independent living, honestly, I tell people it kind of is like a college dorm again. You're living in an apartment, whether that is a spacious 2-bedroom or a studio, but it is a community that is really based on what you want to do. You can come and go as much as you like, but there are scheduled activities, there's scheduled dining. It's really trying to engage people socially. There is no medical assistance. You would have to pay for that additionally, but it is that community feel, And they do look out for each other. I worked at the Seasons in their independent living, and every day someone would call the residents to make sure that they were up and well. So there is some care, there is some support, but it's very limited unless you are willing to pay for that. So the average cost of those places is about $4,000. Now listen, there are places that are $2,500 and there are places that are $9,000 a month. That is an average. It's really about the amenities. Do you want a big movie theater? Do you need to have fine dining? Do you want to go on trips around the world? Obviously, what you pay for, you get more out of it. So assisted living has really evolved. It used to be very clinical. And as we move forward, even in the future, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, it's really become more resort-style living, more like independent living. What is different is that there are nurses and aides 24 hours a day to meet your needs. That care should be and is normally scheduled. The best that any assisted living can do is every 2 hours. If someone tells you that that they can do better than every 2 hours, they are lying to your face. I've run many assisted living. Every 2 hours is the best that they can do, and they schedule that. Hey, someone needs care every 4 hours, every 6 hours, just once a day. That's where that schedule comes in for support. They all have a pendant, so if there is an emergency, obviously you can contact somebody. But the care that is included is those ADLs, medications, though they can provide all the medications. They store them, they order them. I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Any like shower assistance, bathing assistance, clothing, they can help with all those things, again, on a scheduled, at a scheduled time. So how it works from a cost perspective is in assisted living, it's rent and then level of care. Rent is based on the square footage, the type of room you have, and with that you get 3 meals a day. You'd have all the maintenance assistance, transportation, activities, housekeeping, that's all included in the rent. Then you have our level of care cost. That level of care is based on how many times aides and nurses need to come and see you throughout the day. So the more you have nurses and aides throughout the day, the higher your level of care goes, and then they combine the two for that monthly rent. So on average, it's about $600 to $6,500 a month. Memory care. So memory care is a specialized, secured area within the community. And what I like to liken it to is a cruise ship. You have a small room on purpose. And the reason you have a small room is because the way that it's set up, they want you to engage throughout the day. So instead of saying, hey, come back at 10:30, our memory care residents can't normally read their watch. The activities, the dining, everything comes to them throughout the day. So after lunch, we transition to an activity. There's a rest period, then lunch, and then an activity. So it's all coming to them in usually a bigger kind of centralized room. But they are, from a care perspective, is they will give any type of care that you need. It doesn't matter what you need. There is no level of care charge for the most part. It's all inclusive. And that's because our memory care residents may one day need limited care, the next day they need total care, the next day they're somewhere in the middle. So to avoid kind of that fluctuation of price, it's usually an all-inclusive rate for everybody. So let's meet George again. He's hit his plateau in therapy. We discussed what that looks like. During his discharge meeting, the social worker strongly suggests that George go to an assisted living. His daughter and gives his daughter a list of the assisted livings. She goes and visits them to make sure they're the right place. On average, people look at 5 to 7 communities. Now, that's a lot. When we're helping families, we try to limit it to 3 to 4 because we know, based on their level of care, based on their financial situation, and based on location, what would actually suit them best. And each visit is about an hour. Now, if it were me, I'm a talker. As you can tell, it would probably be like 2 hours. But that's all dependent upon you guys and how you operate. But really, it is about an hour. So what should a person look for in a senior community, and what do they need to move into that senior community? Know your must-haves. That is different for everybody. Primarily, it's location, and primarily, it's budget. So know your budget. We tell people that all day, every day, know your budget. We want to be able to have long-term success in the community that we're choosing. The cleanliness of the building. I always look in the corners. I look at the baseboards, and I look around the doors, because those are just such easy things to clean and or paint. And really, if they're dinged up or dusty or dirty, I think that's just indicative of the culture that the community has. I use this as an example all the time, Maple Knoll. Maple Knoll, there's some areas in Maple Knoll that have not been updated since probably I was born in 1988. I know I'm very young. I'm just telling you, that's the last time they updated anything, but it's spotless. And again, that's indicative of the culture that community has, that they are taking care of what they have. Staff longevity, I tell people this all the time. I don't know how many nurses and aides have been fired or have been hired. I don't know that. What I do know is that the executive director, the director of nursing, and the director of sales, whether they've been there for a long time. And if they've been there for a long time, there's continuity of care. People understand the expectations, and there's a positive culture within that community that promotes well-being. I always suggest to do a lunch tour. Why? Because you're going to be able to see people. If you were to go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, most people are taking a nap, and it's going to look like a ghost town. That's not indicative, again, of the culture, of the vibe, of the fun that these communities have. So do a lunch tour, really around any mealtime. That way you can see the residents. What do they look like? What do the staff look like? Do the residents still have breakfast on their shirt? Is their hair a mess? Does it look like they've been wearing the same clothes for 3 days? That's the same with the staff as well. Are they wearing a uniform? Do they look as though they're giving great care and they're engaging with the staff? When I used to give tours to people, I would tell my staff, listen, just say hi, please. What would happen is people, they see me coming and they'd scatter. I'm like, that makes us look terrible. Please, just say hi. I don't need a dissertation on what you do, how you do it, how long you've been here. Just be friendly and say hello. It's, again, that culture, the vibe that really draws people to those communities. And then diverse activities. I've always been under the impression that we should have 9 different activities a day. And not all those activities need to be led by a activities person. There can be some self-led activities, but we want to have a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And those communities, when you walk in and they only have bingo and music, and that's the only thing they have, and trust me, there are communities that's all they have. That's not an environment that's enriching. That's not a culture that you want to be at. That's not a place that you want to be at that allows you to be vibrant. So really look at those activities. Look at the engagement of those residents. Do they look like they're having fun? That's half the battle. Having fun and really just living the best life that they can. Reviews. Reviews can be telling. They can also be maybe a little exaggerated. So I've had a few reviews in my day where a disgruntled staff member will write a review that's not so nice. But you know what they forget to include is the fact that they were late to every single shift, and that they never showed up on time, that they didn't do any work, that they looked, their presentation looked terrible. They tend to forget to add that to the reviews. So yes, reviews can be indicative of the community. Really going to see it and getting that feeling is more important than the reviews themselves. What do I need to move in? Again, understand that budget, but also understand your payer sources. Do you have long-term care? What's your pension look like? Are you a veteran, and are you receiving veteran benefits? Is this something, is Medicaid going to be in your future? So really understand where that's coming from. Move-in documents, pretty simple. They'll give you a big packet. You're going to have a bunch of homework to do once you sign a lease. But really what's critical is that history and physical form from the doctors. The doctor has to sign it, or else you cannot move in. That is a state of Ohio requirement. Powers of attorney, living will, please have those. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have them. It becomes very challenging, especially if we're talking guardianships, things like that. So please get wills, powers of attorney. It makes life a little easier for your families, for the community. So please get those. I cannot implore you enough to do that. Obviously, a signed agreement, and then a face sheet. The face sheet might actually be the most important. That's who we call in case of emergency. So the power of attorney may be the daughter that lives in Arizona, but the emergency contact is the son who lives in Milford. So make sure that you are really, really detailed with all of those things. Furniture. 99% of the time, these apartments come unfurnished. You will need to bring your own furniture. Now, we've had people that buy all new furniture. They go to Value City, pick up 5 or 6 things. It's delivered to the community. It's set up for them. They move right in. Obviously, you can bring your own. I always recommend that you do bring a little piece of home with you. Depression, anxiety, that's really prevalent with our seniors, especially moving into these communities. I know we talked earlier today about the feeling of loss. Well, these people have lost their homes. They've lost their perceived freedom. They may have lost a spouse. So bringing that piece of home may provide that comfort that they need to go through this life transition. Clothing. Please don't bring too much. There is just not enough room. I swear, there is not enough room. We got people who are bringing trunkfuls of clothing. They're bringing fur coats. I'm like, please don't bring any of that. We don't need it. Less is more. Less is more with clothing. 3 weeks worth. And a lot of these places have storage units that you can rent to flip out some of your heavier clothing or heavier winter clothing. And then the right expectations. I think this is the most prevalent and most important thing. These communities are people helping people. People aren't always the best. People make mistakes. It's never going to be perfect. What I tell people all the time is it's not about things going wrong. It's about what happens after things go wrong. How does that community, how does that company respond to that negative situation? And I think it's really important, too, is that developing that rapport with the staff will allow those things, those negative situations to be cured or be solved much faster because we're working together as a team, less client versus community and that butting of heads. You catch more flies with honey. It's kind of the same idea. Senior housing trends in the future. Something I added this actually today at 6 in the morning. I was thinking about a good way to close our presentation, and it's about the future. right now, and we talked about the pricing, that pricing's only going to go up. And in 5-10 years, that pricing, instead of $6,500, will be $8,500. So what we're really missing are those people who may have they're a teacher. They have a $6,000 pension. That's all they have. There needs to be that middle market type community that may not have all the robust activities and may not have a movie theater, and the food is fine but not great. Those people need and deserve support as well. So I think that in the future, we need some of those middle market products. Solo aging, more and more people have gotten divorced here in the last 20 years. And also there are more and more people who haven't gotten married or they've lost a spouse. So how do you reach those people? How do you provide the resources for those solo agers that may have limited family or their family lives in California? So I think there's just going to be a really big group of people that we need to be able to reach that have no support. And where that really comes in is, through our resources, we have geriatric care managers that can help with that day-to-day, kind of a second daughter approach. We have attorneys and financial planners that we work with that allow those people to get the resources that they need. Focus on the shift from medical-based living to lifestyle-based, and we talked about it a little bit. Assisted living has changed, and 10, 15 years ago, it still felt very clinical, felt hospital-like. Well, now we're starting to see these resort-like communities opening up, and I'll use an example here in town is there's a community at Summit Park in Blue Ash. Well, they tout that, yes, they have the care, all these things, but they have these enriched amenities, this community around their assisted living that provides those people with enhanced living situations. So, those types of communities are going to start popping up. Now, we see a lot of them in Florida and Arizona, but I think that's going to really start popping up here in Cincinnati as the need increases here in the next 5 to 10 years. Increased memory care services, we see it every day. More and more people have cognitive decline. More and more people are in need of additional support that their spouse or they're a solo ager and they just cannot find. We're finding that memory care apartments are few and far between. The really good places are full with wait lists. The really bad places are not full for obvious reasons. So there really needs to be a big shift in more memory services here in the next 5 to 10 years as that baby boomer population continues to age. And then the use of technology, we see it in every walk of life. A good friend of mine is invested in a company that is a robotic nurse. You'll have a nurse that's sitting in a room somewhere, and they'll just drive a little robot, dispense the meds to the person. There might be a little camera here in the chest, if you will, of that robot. And so we're going to see more and more of those types of things using technology to enhance the lives of our seniors. So just a little bit about us. Senior Care Partners, we are a free resource. We're helping people navigate senior housing. So we're happy to help with whatever price point that people may be, whatever clinical situation they may be in. Myself, Linda, our team has a wide breadth of knowledge about our industry, and we're happy to help with anything that you may need. And here's my contact information. So I know that there's probably a lot of questions. I'm happy to answer them. I think Maureen will be getting the mic. If you're really, I'm going to repeat the question and then answer so that everyone can hear.
Who's got a hand? Okay. Well, Mark, you're second. Absolutely.
Okay, you're first in our hearts, Mark.
No,
Hello, I'm just wondering, what is the state of the quality, the overall quality of independent and assisted living in Cincinnati?
Did everyone hear that? It's about what is the quality? Well, I'll start that by you get what you pay for. Again, talking about from a quality perspective, again, no one knows, every aide and every nurse in every community. But what you can tell, and why I said that longevity of staff, especially the executive director, the director of nursing, and the director of sales, that triangle is kind of the heartbeat of the community. And if in our industry, it's very cutthroat. If you are not performing, you get fired very quickly. So if you've had that trio that has been together for a long time, you just know that the quality is better because they've been able to provide quality care, and that's because they have more people stay longer, the longevity of their residents. And then honestly, it's how you feel when you walk in. I hate to, there's not really a metric for that, but do you feel comfortable in being there? It's never gonna be perfect, but at the end of the day, it's about continuity, and it's about making sure that you're in the place that makes you feel the most comfortable. It will never be, as I said, it'll never be perfect, and quality is sometimes fluctuates. That was a long answer to a short question, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Based on very limited investigation, it seems the retirement communities suggest you get in there while you're independent.
Yeah.
You get some kind of preferred care as you move into assisted living, et cetera.
Right.
Is that true in your experience?
So the question is should you go early, essentially, and should you go into independent living and then work your way through that continuum? That was the case probably 10 years ago. I think that has changed now that the assisted livings are providing the amenities that the independent living is providing. The way that we've built new buildings allow more higher functioning assisted living residents to be in an environment where they get the care, but they still get to live that fulfilling life. My suggestion is always go earlier rather than later. And being in a community and going early as an independent living resident, you get to know the staff, you get to learn the expectations, and you get to understand what it looks like kind of as you go through that continuum. Obviously, the more information you have, the better. I think that we've seen from the business perspective, and we've seen less and less people moving independently, and more people waiting for that, oh no moment. So we've seen less independent living people and more assisted living people, and so the deals are to be had, I guess, in the independent living side if we're looking for a deal.
I haven't. No, okay. I have an aunt who lived to be 97, and when she moved into assisted living, she said she wanted to go when she could still make friends. So she actually moved into independent living for the last 13, 14 years of her life.
Yeah.
At different times, she needed more assistance, and she hired aides, but I thought that was a good point.
And that's what we're
You don't
seeing.
want to wait for that
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing
event.
too from the independent living side. I'll use the Seasons and Evergreen as an example, is within their independent living, they have hired their own private duty staff to meet your needs on a 15-minute increment. So you can still live in independent living, or you have a couple that one needs some care, one is independent. You can still get the care that you need while staying in that independent living environment.
I just want to piggyback on that. I'm Linda. I work with Stuart, and I guess I'm going to be working with some of you at the NeuroFit group in June. But I have a client now who is in the independent living at Seasons and had a stroke and has some memory care decline, so a cognitive decline. So he's now at the rehab. And all the friends from independent living, to piggyback on what Maureen's saying, all of his friends and buddies from independent living are visiting him at the rehab. So unfortunately, he'll probably have to go to the assisted living. I say unfortunately because you know, nobody wants to continue to decline, but unfortunately they will at some point. And it's great though, because they're going to choose to stay in the community because he'll still be able to do things with his friends. So there is a lot of value to get started earlier and to know where you are and to be there when you can enjoy everything.
I might just put in a plug for them too. My sister has some significant disabilities, also mental health disabilities, and her kids have kind of done the research for years, you know, and she didn't last in a couple different facilities. But I finally sent them to Stuart, and, you know, they hadn't heard of this place where she's ended up. It was newer, but, you know, at least you have other resources than your own. Because you're always going to miss something, right? You get tired of looking at the internet. You get tired of calling places and leaving voicemails, right? So it can be really helpful to go to people like Stuart and his staff.
Thank you, Maureen. I appreciate it. We are free.
Any other questions?
So we get a fee from the communities that we place people in. So we have contracts with over 100 communities in the greater Cincinnati area, Northern Kentucky, Indiana, Dayton, through Columbus. What's nice is, like I said, I started this company in my basement, so we're not a franchise. So we've moved people Arizona, Florida, Philadelphia, New York City, Virginia, now I'm thinking Columbus, Cleveland, Indianapolis. I mean, so we were able to help people wherever they are. Yeah, we get a lot of people, daughter lives in Cincinnati, mom still lives wherever. And we also bring people here as well and have those resources to help navigate that.
So one of the arguments that I have heard for moving sooner rather than later, going back to your question, is that if there was an urgent situation, that there's a very long wait list everywhere, and if you're not already in, you can't get there. So what is the state of that situation in the city of Cincinnati?
So that's a great question. And a lot of those long wait lists are actually some of the more independent living places that, and there's some wait lists in some established communities. In assisted living, the average length of stay is 18 months to 2 years. So there's always some turnover. Where we get a wait list normally is that a person doesn't like the layout of the apartment. They want a one bedroom, but there's only studios. Or I have a client now, they only want to go to two bedroom. They only want a two bedroom. Well, there aren't many two bedrooms out there. So just giving them the right expectation, like you may have to go on a wait list, or you may have to move into a studio or a one bedroom to then jump to the top of the wait list because you're already a resident there. Once a two bedroom opens, then you can move into that two bedroom. So I would say that the wait lists are two things. One is the apartment style. The other is usually, and I always find this funny, is the senior themselves getting on the wait list so that their kids get off their back. So there's a lot of that. It's funny when we're talking with clients and, hey, we want to go to these specific places, and there's a wait list. Or when I was running communities, the person who got the apartment was always like the 8th person on the wait list. People are just on the wait list to be on the wait list. So I would suggest, yes, getting on the wait list, but it's much easier. Get into the community early. Enjoy what they have to offer. Enjoy that community feel. And then if you don't like the apartment, you can move. What usually happens is that people end up liking or are okay with the apartment. And you just have to think of it, well, we don't want them to be in their apartment. We want them to be out and engaging. And for those people who don't like to engage, what's the difference between a one bedroom and a studio if you're going to sit in your chair all day? So there's just some small things that as you go through the process, we get to talk about. So don't let them tell you that there's a wait list. It's just it's the room style.
Do you have any opinion on the differences between for-profit ownership and not-for-profit ownership?
They all want to make money. FYI, they all want to make money. What it is I think there's just some endowment with the not-for-profits that allow them to maybe do some different things, especially from a funding perspective. A lot of these not-for-profits have some indemnity funds that allow people, if they've run out of money, to stay. That's really the biggest. Listen, they still want to make money. They still need to pay their staff. They still need to do all these things. Here's the trick, and hopefully I don't see any is sometimes they'll make you do a financial document that shows your assets, and they may not accept you on the front end because your assets are at a certain amount. So save your pennies is what I'm saying. That's a good question. She asked Maureen, while you're walking, I'll answer this one. Does it cost anything to be on the wait list? Usually there is a fully refundable deposit. The cost of that varies, $500 to first month's rent, but it's usually fully refundable. So if you can afford to give them $3,000 or whatever it may be, get on the wait list.
That's a great presentation, Stuart.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I'm so blessed to work at a facility that when people are touring and they come into my space, my welcome to them is welcome to paradise.
Yeah.
It is such a blessing to be able to feel that way, working every day in a space that you feel is so incredible.
And I think that's a testament to just the change in the thought process to living in a community. It's no longer one flew over the cuckoo's nest. It's being in a resort. And I think yes, the food is important. It's really the care and the activities person. If that activities person can create an environment that's fun and engaging, that's worth its weight in gold. I assume you're an activities director. Wellness. Yeah, you're okay too. You have the hard job. I wouldn't want your job.
I don't have a question, but you've not said anything about continuing care. I live in a facility that is not-for-profit.
Yep.
And it's continuing care. And that means you can come in as independent living, and if your needs change, you're right there. You don't have to move anywhere.
Right. Yes. So that's the positive of kind of Mark. We touched on that with Mark, is that independent living, as you need, you come in independent, as you need more care, as that changes, as your needs change, there are some support and resources on site, right there, so that they don't skip a beat with what your needs are. So there are a lot of different types of communities out there. It's all what makes you feel the most comfortable.
Is that referring to legacy care?
So that's yes. Yes. It's all about the dollar sign, yes.
Any other questions? Here's one. Get my steps in.
Super Dito on your presentation, and especially the first of the 17, the continuing care. So much time for patients, but you rightly point out, I know our Maple Oak you were talking about, I drive past every day, and I drive past a memory care center.
Yeah.
I see it almost never empty. I've never been in one, but I just got a caregiver, 19, who hired by the council of, the Ohio Council, has a baby 2 years old, services patients all over Cincinnati, drives every day to drop her kid off up there, comes down and works in this memory place. He's got 60 patients, 4 people to take care of them. One I ran who sits up in the front office, painted the damn door, I guess,
Yeah.
She said on a bad weekend, maybe she has 3 or 4 people to prepare for for the mortuary. She has to put on a double layer of clothes, and she puts toothpaste up her nose so she can handle the putrefaction. She doesn't have a real good environment.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys are doing your part to help the caregivers as well as I'm sure you are.
Of course. I mean, that's, as I kind of joked that the wellness director, that's a hard job. The hardest job is being a caregiver. I am a STNA, so I've worked as an aide. It's no fun. But it takes a special person to do it. And listen, there are communities and there are places that are not as nice as others. And so that's where talking to people like us, doing your research to make sure that you are not subjected to that kind of community. And I think a lot of times too it's just making sure that you're doing your research. But yes, caregiving is extremely hard. It's extremely difficult. Kudos to her for doing such a great job. I like the questions. These are good. It's way better than giving a presentation.
One thing I didn't hear you mention, if you're looking at a place,
Yeah.
is see how much the management, the administrator, is out on the floor?
Yeah, I think that's part of just making sure that you're looking at the staff. That's why I always say go during that meal time. That's when you're going to see most of the staff out and about. There's, as a former executive director and nursing administrator, the old adage is managed by walking around, and it's important. I mean, listen, there are directors that don't, and their community might be great, but that's why sometimes I say sometimes it's about feel. Do you feel comfortable in going there? Did you see that executive director? Did they introduce themselves? Do you see the director of nursing, or it's not just the salesperson? So I think that's where it's indicative of the culture of the community is really important when you're looking for places. So yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, I only have 12,000 steps in so far.
What's another 3,000?
Did somebody have their hand up? Okay, I'm letting Chris wrap this up.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, guys.
Great job, as always. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is everybody ready to get up and move around a little bit? So we're running a few minutes ahead of schedule, which is unusual. But what we're going to do is go ahead and break now. We'll give you about 10, 15, 20 minutes or so to head to the restrooms if you need it. We would encourage you to meet with our sponsors here in the back of the room, as well as our sponsors and exhibitors in the exhibit hall. While you're doing that, the staff will set up for lunch. We'll be back for lunch at, let's see, it is now 11:24. So let's be back at about 11:35, 11:40, and we'll start serving lunch. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed lunch, and I hope you all had a chance to spend some time with our sponsors and exhibitors in the next room. I don't think that I mentioned earlier, and I wanted to, but if you get a chance and you get back into the exhibit hall, we have a couple of authors that are part of our Parkinson's community. Elizabeth Levitt Grover, who has written about hiking with Parkinson's, I think is the name of her book, and talks about how hiking has been a big part of her therapy. And then Rick Isles has written a book called My Papa Who Moves, and it's a children's book, and it's illustrated, and it's wonderful, and it's got joy in it, and there's uplifting things in here. I've gotten a copy for my grandson, who is only 3 years old, so it's a little too early for him, but he also has a Papa Who Moves, so it'll be helpful to him. So if you get a chance, visit them in the exhibit hall. Also wanted to mention about The hearts, thank you very much. We see it filling up here in the basket. If you haven't filled one of these out for Maureen, we'll make sure the basket is still available so you can get a chance to do so. And I'm just going to read a couple, and I won't get personal about it, but one says, "Now is the time to have fun and not set the alarm." And I don't know. I don't know. Somebody needs to call Maureen in if I'm going to read these, so. We got somebody that's heading out to get her. So in the meantime, I'll read a couple more. One just says magnificent, awesome, unbelievable, radiant, energetic, enthusiastic, and nifty, which spells out Maureen. Very creative, thank you. Here's one, thank you so much for your leadership and professionalism. Over the years, we all, underline, deeply appreciate your influence and sharing your talents with us. You are the best. And Maureen, thank you for all your years of service in the Parkinson's community. You are an invisible resource to us. Thank you again. You're welcome. So I want to thank again the program committee and the volunteers that helped to put this together. Most of them are not sitting in this room because they're busy making things happen behind the scenes, but a lot of time and effort, and as I said, they'll start on Monday working on next year's event. You have evaluation sheets at the table. They use those to help guide the committee in terms of developing a program for next year. I also want to thank the other two members of our staff. Becky Conaway, who is our Assistant Director in charge of communications. She also is the person that scares up sponsors and exhibitors, so she's critical in raising the money that makes these things happen. She also does all the graphics. She manages our website. So I just wanted to acknowledge Becky and wave and say hi to everybody. Thank you. And my other partner in crime is Nancy Wetterer, who is our Assistant Director in charge of everything, including me. But I often say that I'm the face of the organization because everybody makes me stand up at these things and get in front of the microphone. Nancy's the voice and the heart. If you call our office, you're going to talk to Nancy. She's there. She's got the answers, or she'll find the answers. She'll refer you to the right resources. She and her husband, Bob, are our biggest supporters. They make this happen. They make Steady Strides the event that it is. They're just so important to us. We actually even named the concourse at our Steady Strides, where you can get all the free food and drink. It's now called Wetterer's Way as an ongoing tribute. But I wanted to give Nancy a chance to also be the face of the organization for a few minutes. So Nancy, if you'll come up and make a few comments, we'd appreciate it. And don't forget, my papa who moves.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Well, we know why. One reason that we're here today is to, and we've mentioned it, and you've written some hearts, and we're going to present those to Maureen Gardner here very shortly. I just have a few words that I would like to share with you concerning Maureen's retirement recognition for today. I'm going to lift this up. I need to lift that up just a little bit. So I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude. Maureen's sitting right over here, too, if you're wondering, for all her support and dedication, not only to her patients and their families, but her commitment and involvement through the years with Parkinson's support and wellness. PSW has seen tremendous growth and visibilities. Yeah. What do you need? Oh, yeah. Has seen tremendous growth and visibility through the years, and a lot of this can be attributed to Maureen. Her medical expertise is second to none, and this is exemplified day in and day out. For example, whenever Maureen is the presenter for our PDEDU, which is our educational seminars that are held one Saturday a month, we can always expect a very large audience, and she is very highly respected. She is on automatic dial and text with many of you here and many families and friends and patients. Some of you may not know, but Maureen also has a beautiful, lovely voice. Yearly, she sings the national anthem, Steady Strides 5K Race Walk, and we receive rave reviews. So we know she'll be back for that again this year. On a personal note, Maureen sang at my dad's funeral in 2017, Guardian Angels Church, and she visited him twice in the nursing home. That's just the kind of person she is, and I will never forget it. And I know she's done the same for a number of you out there. I always look forward to being in the office. Dr. Duker bi-weekly would have meetings and in the Stetson conference room. And I could always, at the conclusion, Maureen would always stop in and for a catch-up visit. And we'd always catch up on Parkinson's and life in general. I'm very happy, I know Chris mentioned this before too, to announce that Maureen is staying on the PSW board. She's also chair of the program committee. She's also with the grant committee and the Steady Strides committee. So you name the committee and Maureen's been on it or she's on it and continues to do so. To conclude, I have a few words to sum up Maureen. She's family, loving aunt, inspiration, commitment, involvement, caring, volunteer, and special friend, to name a few. Thank you, Maureen, for everything you have done and you continue to do. If you would just come up.
This was just supposed to be spring forum. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Why I have flowers? Why, do I have a gravestone in there? I have a vase. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love watercolor. That's for you. Whoa. Oh, how beautiful. Ooh. Waterford vase. Oh, thank you. Oh, and it has, oh, how lovely. Thank you. Oh, that's very special. I have actually, the neurosurgeon I used to work with 100 years ago at Mayfield used to give us Waterford for gifts at Christmas. So thank you very much. From all of us. From all of you. So that's flowers will go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody for all of your kindness. I've received notes from people and phone calls and texts, and you know, you each and every one of you give me life. You are my passion. I really believe we need to help each other, and however we can do that is what we need to do. So I hope that I can continue to help people live with Parkinson's. And I hope that you all can embrace it and live well with it, because that's what we really want for each of you. All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Must be getting old. We're going to invite Maureen Shiner from Bailey to come up and lead our next exercise session. So hopefully everything's settled, because we're going to get unsettled right now.
They can all see that chair.
What's that?
That chair might need to move.
Where would you like it?
I don't know. So I guess this, oh, does this roll back?
It can, yes.
That would be good.
Probably want to start at the bottom.
That way everyone can see me on all sides. There we go. Yeah? I'm going to use that chair. Thank you, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Maureen from Bailey. Thanks for the shout out to Bailey. Bailey is a retirement community, a continuing care retirement community on the west side. So we are your west side representatives. And we have continuing care, assisted living, independent living, skilled care, but we also have a community wellness center on site, and that's where I work, and I get to do my Parkinson's programming there, among many other things. So if you are a West Sider or know some West Siders, direct them to Bailey. I do want to give a shout out to my Bailey community who is here today. Yeah, look at this. We have great classes of all sorts, but we do have several Parkinson-specific classes. They are my favorite. I don't tell that to all my classes. You are my favorite. You really inspire me, and you make me a better person, so thank you. I really love my team over there. All right. We're going to get exercising. Okay, so get yourself some space. We are going to stay seated, so please get yourself some space. Open up. We're going to move our arms and our legs. Get some space. And if you have your space already while everyone else is getting their space, start moving in your chair. Just move like this. Go forward and back, and don't just move. Go places. Scoot back in your chair. Ooh, I can see myself. That's kind of scary. Go forward. Go to the side a little bit, like you're making room for someone to sit next to you. And then go to the other side. Step out like you're getting ready to get off of your chair. Step out over here like you're getting ready to get off of your chair. Scoot back some more. And some more. And just move aside. So we're getting ourselves off of one butt cheek and onto the other. Moving side to side. All right. Did y'all get to move forward, back, side to side, and everywhere? Okay, one thing I forgot that's in my hand. Sherry, our marketing director's going to be mad at me if I don't say this. We, at our exhibit table back there, had a plant for raffle, and I'm going to read this later. Don't let me forget. Okay. So, at the edge of your chair, if you can be there, open up your chest. Sit tall. If I say sit tall once, I say it 1,000 times, don't I? We're sitting tall. We're powering up. Okay, we're going to do a big reach over diagonally and a big reach on the other side. And then we're going to do it at mid-level. Reach, feel it through your back. We're going high. Very good. All right, well, let's go to the music. We're going here and high and high. Low and middle and high and high. So keep doing that. Don't think too much about it. Let be on autopilot as you reach low, medium, and high. And now add some heel taps. Middle, high, high. Keep with the heel taps. Reach as far as your body will go. High. Fingers are open and big. We're low and middle. One more time through with our heel taps, and then we're changing it up. Okay, keep your arms doing what they do. We're going to toe taps. We'll do that first. Toe taps now. Lift your toes as high as you can go. Very good. We're going low, low, middle, middle, high, high, low, low, middle, middle. Reach out there and high and high. Tapping your toes. Middle. You can say 2 more times. Low, low. Reach with your open fingers and high and high. 1 more time. I don't know if we already did 2 or not, but this is our next one. Okay, we have 1 more with our low, middle, and high. You can relax your arms for a second and get your knees up. You're at the edge of your chair. You're engaging your core muscles. You're tall, because we're always tall. And we're going to go low, low, middle, middle, high, high. Here we go. Low, low, middle, middle, high, and high. Low, low, middle with a reach, middle, and high, and high. Are your knees still going up, or did you forget that part? Low, middle, middle, high, and high. 2 more times. Low, low, middle, middle, reach high, 1 more time. Low, low, middle, middle, and high, and high. Very good. All right, we did some of that. That was good. Again, at the edge of your chair, we are going to open up, called Power Up. We're just opening up like this. This helps us in so many ways. It helps us to get up and get out of our chair. It gives us a better mood. When we open up through our chest, it brings the feel-good hormones, and it helps us breathe better. So it's always good to be powered up, even with our string on, right, team? We've got our string on. We're powered up. So we're just going to power up. We're looking around the room. Power up, come back, open up. Open up your chest. We're going to do 10 of these, but of course we're not just counting by 1s. We're going to count by 2s as we continue to open up our chest. Look around the room, see who's there, and let's start. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're going to 20, 12, 14, 16. Say hello to the people in the back of the room. And 20. Very good. All right. Our next job, we have to count by 3s. What will we do? 3s to what? We're doing 10. 3s to 30. Okay. So we're reaching for something in a high closet. We're reaching this way, and we're reaching this way. We are coming off of one butt cheek and onto the other butt cheek. Got that? We're reaching high. Let's start. 3, count with me. 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. Pretty good. All right. We are reaching to get something out of the back seat. We're keeping our hips straight, but we're reaching to get something out of the back seat. And who's going to tell us how we're counting? Oh, backwards. Yeah, we are, Dan. You said it. We're counting backwards from 40 by 4s. That's not on my note, but that's a great suggestion. Counting backwards from 40 by 4s. Don't forget to get that thing out of the back seat while you're there. Okay, here we go. 4, 8, 12. Why? Oh! Like I was thinking, why is nobody counting with me? All right, I'm not going to be sure that I can pull this off, but here we go. Let me get in my groove, and then I'll start counting. Get something out of the back seat. Here we go. 40, 36, 32, 28, 24. Good job. 20. Reach and get that thing. 12. 8, 4, 0. That was pretty good. I think we can go backwards on the next one too. It's easy to go backwards from 50 by 5s. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we of course are tall with an open chest. And we're stepping out. We're getting ready to step out of the car. This way and that way. As we step out, our toes are pointing that direction. So counting down, go ahead and practice. Get ready to count down from 50 by 5s. There we go. 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, that wasn't so bad, 5, and 0. Okay. This next one, I think I'm going to confuse my own self. You know, you don't have to have Parkinson's for these to be difficult. I find this all the time. These are multitasking ones, many sequence ones are hard for everybody. Okay. Oh no, this one's not. Yeah, this one is the hard one. You've got this. Okay, first of all, we're just kind of rocking back and forth. That's easy. We're gonna do a little flick out to the side. Flick, 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 flick. And look at your hands as they're flicking. Look over your shoulder at your hands as you're moving, rocking from one side to the other with a little flick. Okay, not so bad. Now we've got to flick, flick, flick together. But when we flick together, we're gonna smile at each other. So flick, 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 flick. One more time for that. Flick, flick, flick. Okay, here comes the hard part. Flick, 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 flick. Raise your eyebrows. Flick, 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 flick. Ah, I think I did it wrong. Eyebrows. Flick, 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 flick. Get your eyebrow with those things. Flick, 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 flick. I did it wrong again. Okay, as I'm doing it wrong, we're even gonna add on more. 3 times. We're gonna do a flick, and a flick with a smile. A flick, 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 flick with the eyebrows. We're gonna do that through 3 times. I'm gonna watch the person who looks like they know what they're doing, and I think I'm gonna follow them. So here we go. Okay, flick, flick, flick together with a smile. Flick twice. Flick, 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 flick. Get your eyebrows up. That's 1. Flick, flick, flick together, smile. Flick, 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 flick. Get your eyebrows up. Flick, flick, flick together with a smile. Flick, 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 flick. Get your eyebrows up. Last time, I think we're pulling it off. Flick, flick, smile. Flick, 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 flick. We did it. All right. Very good. We have one last sequencing type of move. 100% so far, everybody. Good work. Good work. Okay. So we are stepping to the right, but reaching. So how about this? Step to the right and reach with your left hand and come back. Step to the left, reach with your what? Right hand and together. Step together, step out together. Step together, step together. Step together, step together. One more time, step together and step together. That's number 1. Very good. Number 2, we do the same side. So we step together, step together, step together, step. Okay, we've got that. So we're going to add those 2 together. We step right, reach with our left and come together. We step this way, reach that way, and then we do the same side. Okay, got that? Easy enough. Let's do a couple of those, and then we just add on a couple more things. Okay, so we start by stepping right, reaching with our left hand. Ready, and step together. Step together, same side. Step together. Step together. Step together. Very good. We're doing opposite together. Now same side. Step together. And step. Well, that's good. You got that down. All right. Now in between. We do this. We'll just. I have to practice it before I share it with you. Step together. Step. Step. Reach, pull, hip, hip. So we should add that. Thank you. We might. Okay, so we're going opposite, opposite, same, same. Reach, really reach. Pull and squeeze your shoulder blades. Reach, pull and squeeze your shoulder blades. Opposite hip, opposite hip. Pretty good, huh? Easy enough. All right. So 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Step together. Step together. Step together. Step together. Ready, reach, pull, hip, hip. Very good. Step together. Step and reach together. Step together. Step together. Reach, pull, squeeze, opposite hip, opposite hip. Let's do one more. Here we go. Together. Reach, together. Same, together. Same, together. Reach, pull, squeeze, hip, hip. All right, 100%. Very, 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 very good. Okay, let's take a big breath and reach to the sky. Big, big, big breath, and come on down. Reach as high as your arms will let you. And come on down. 2 more times. On this last one, reach to the sky with the breath in. And on the exhale, come on down and give yourself a big hug. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, great job. I just saw Maureen, and I got a reminder that I know Maureen's retiring. I know Maureen lives on the west side, and we have some volunteer opportunities. So I'm thinking I might hit Maureen up to see if she wants to volunteer. I heard her say she wants to forever work with the community of Parkinson's. Right? She already has a job? Well, I know, but she's retiring from it. Anyway, just a little bug in your ear. Oh, I see. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And the drawing. Thank you, dear. Thank you. The winner of the basket that Sherry's running to get right now is Caroline Meyer Hughes. Good job. Your basket's on its way. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the raffle for a free gift certificate from Elite Comfort Home Care, they proudly donated 5 of these just to sponsor the program today. They do in-home care, and they have no minimum on the amount of hours to have them come out, give you a hand, or offer you respite care. So 5 gift certificates. These are each worth 3 hours of respite care. So who won these? Number one, Gail Stewart. Gail?
Way down there.
Come on down, Gail. Number 2, it's a phone number. 513-477-1941. That might be a 6, yes. Is that you? Come on down. Congratulations. Congratulations.
She already won something, so she wants to give it to somebody else.
All right, giving it to somebody else. Claudia Moulter? Claudia Moulter?
Okay.
513-255-0158. Okey doke. Going, gone. Hans Grasshoff. Come on, Hans. Congratulations. You're quite welcome.
Dennis Betts.
Dennis Betts. Dennis?
Oh, yes.
There you go. There you go. Next. Oh, you're such a good picker-outer. Wow. Michael.
Newkemsil. 513-265-2103. Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Next one. Mike Alderman.
Okay. Is that the last one?
Nope,
No,
we have
still
one more. Come on down, Mike. Oh, go again. Okay. Okay.
Oh, Jagdish Patel. There they are.
Congratulations. And the last one, Moran. 513-543-1774.
All right. There you go.
There we go. Excellent. Congratulations. Joyce Moran. Thank you.
So if you remember last year, when I introduced Dr. Espay, I printed out his CV. And I went, and he said, "You really shouldn't have done that." And I said, "But I needed scrap paper." So Dr. Espay comes without any introductions, right? We all know and love him. He is the cutting edge on any research, any opinions you want about Parkinson's disease. He has it, he lives it, he dreams it, and he talks it. So Dr. Espay.
Do I have my clicker over here? Oh,
I don't know, do you?
I don't have a clicker. Maybe, do I have a clicker? Shortly. All right. I will have it shortly.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I am Alberto Espay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I do get the joke often that the next presenter needs no introduction, therefore I won't present him. I get that all the time. But I'm very happy to be here. I'm always interested in talking to my people because I'm a doctor. I see patients with Parkinson's disease. That's what I love to do. And one major reason to be together and for you to know how interested I am in talking about this and communicating is because when I speak to colleagues elsewhere, it is about a debate of ideas. And that is okay, but it doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't feel personal. But when I talk to people connected to Parkinson at a personal level, then it does. And so what I want to present to you is the idea of Parkinson's, how we, people like me and my forebears, came up to call this thing Parkinson's, and why it is that while helpful a century ago, it really isn't quite as helpful for what we want. We want cures, plural, and I'll explain to you what that means. So, just to introduce this topic, I want to tell you that you have a lot more power in shaping what we do than you perhaps give yourself credit for. Whereas I can say a lot, but I have to admit that outside of the box ideas don't tend to get into the box very easily unless there is pressure from the outside. Unless people like you say, wait a minute, what are you doing? And you have to ask the question, what are you doing and why you are doing it? So my disclosures are here. I am connected to a number of companies in the space of therapeutics, but none of this theme here today is relevant to the affiliations I have. The first scientist that worked on what we call the Parkinson's protein was Bob Burke. Synuclein, or alpha-synuclein as we know it today, was never, ever taken seriously until Bob Burke at Columbia University in models that today might be thought of as somewhat obsolete, determined that no matter how he was looking at this, under forces that would make cells die, the surviving cells, apoptosis is a term for the forces that make cells die, would overexpress synuclein. Cells destined to survive must express synuclein. That is what, in 1999, we learned. And in fact, it had been seen earlier that the idea of Parkinson's came from an autopsy. If somebody that had symptoms of Parkinson's during life dies and the brain is examined, we can see Lewy bodies in the brain. Imagine you're positioning yourselves in a forensic manner. You are seeing the proverbial crime scene of a brain autopsy, and there are these clumps there that in any other forensic story would be the bloody corpses, the victims. But somehow, at that point, we said, this is the hallmark of Parkinson's, and along the way became the cause. Trouble is, of course, that for a long time, we had seen that most people with the Parkinson's protein, synuclein, with Lewy bodies, die without Parkinson's than people with Lewy bodies and Parkinson's. So there are 10 times as many people with Lewy bodies in their brain dying with no history of neurological symptoms, much less anything that we would call Parkinson's. But what happened in 2003? In 2003, we shifted from a neuroprotective role for synuclein to a neurotoxic role because we had this most beautiful first staging system. Today I'm talking about the staging system that we're replacing this one with. And I'm gonna hopefully convince you that while logical, it isn't true. That there isn't a staging system for everyone with Parkinson's. But this came, and I show you the pictures of that paper. The pictures were beautiful. They are showing things moving from one region of the brain to another. And we fall like suckers for any research article with pretty pictures. So this one had the prettiest pictures. Now, 13,000 citations makes this the most cited paper in the field of Parkinson's. This is it. If you ever think which is the most influential paper in Parkinson's, this is it. When I have a paper that's cited 100 times, I'm very happy. 200 is a blockbuster. This is many orders of magnitude above it. This is what has guided every research since. So it's interesting to know how this came about. This came about because the neuropathologists, the people that examine the brains in Germany, a group from Heiko Brack and colleagues, had at their disposal in their brain bank 41 brains of people who had Parkinson's, history of Parkinson's, and 69 brains of people with the Parkinson's brain, but without history of Parkinson's, which, by the way, is the story of every brain bank on the planet. Most Lewy body-filled brains come from people with no history of Parkinson's. It's what Andrew Lees, a colleague from Queen's Square in England, has said many times. Say, open, dirty secret nobody's looking into. How could it be that these Lewy bodies are more common in people without Parkinson's than people with Parkinson's? At any rate, what he did and his colleagues is to put this brain and stage them from least to most staining for Lewy bodies. And in doing so, they saw a pattern, as if they could put these brains all into a single staging story, whereby the Lewy bodies move from one region to another, thus creating a unifying staging system for Parkinson's. By saying move, we change entirely the whole thing about where this data came from. This was static data made dynamic, convergent, unifying, you could argue logical. But the analogy is no different to me showing you this. Most of you immediately know this is a window on a cold winter day that has snowflakes growing. And let's say that you don't really know that, but I'm going to tell you that I see how this happened. This happened by the movement, active, from this region to that region to this other region. That's exactly what happened. And I sound authoritative, so therefore you believe me. That is pareidolia. Pareidolia is when you look at the clouds and you see an elephant, same idea. Pareidolia is what Heiko Brack and colleagues committed. How do we know that? We know that because here are the two things. So if you have a staging system, and you think the higher the staging in the upper graph, the older people should be, right? The older we are, the higher the staging. That makes sense. So that would be a linear relationship. That's the upper graph here. The lower graph is showing you that the pathological staging, the stages into which we think Lewy body progresses, should roughly correlate with the clinical staging. And by the way, you can see that the first two stages, 1 and 2, is what Brack had said, we don't yet have the disease, it's brewing. And just when it gets to stage 3, then it reaches the midbrain in its cephalad course, and that is when the midbrain cells that manufacture dopamine die, and that is when we will get Parkinson's. So therefore, the stages 3 through 6 would be the ones that correlates with the clinical stages if the staging system was true. From the data of Brack and colleagues, this was not the case. There was no correlation between aging and the Parkinson's staging, and if anything, a non-statistical inverse correlation between the pathological staging, the Lewy body staging, and the clinical staging. By 2011, there have been many other studies that had shown that there was very little that we can make out of where and how much the brain contains in terms of Lewy bodies and what you would have seen. But I think this one is a very important one. I think just because it's so simple. In the horizontal bar, you see the number of Lewy bodies, LBs, Lewy bodies in the substantia nigra. In the vertical bar, you see the number of neurons in that region. if the Lewy bodies were the cause of Parkinson's, as we've come to believe, you would expect that the more the Lewy bodies in that region, the fewer neurons would remain. The story is complicated because, in fact, it shows us the exact opposite. That the more of the Lewy bodies, the more neurons survive. It is as if we are back in 1999 with Bob Burke, when he said to us, neurons destined to survive must express synuclein. And when synuclein is overexpressed by biophysics, it also tends to precipitate into Lewy bodies. And that's why Lewy body formation is in fact a reactive, defensive strategy that the brain mounts against a variety of different things, but not the vehicle of toxicity. Because if so, by now, we would have already long seen that the more the Lewy bodies, the worse the cell loss, the faster the progression. And that isn't true. If the ideas we have on which we have inspired our research are logical, compelling, but false, nature doesn't give a damn. We cannot build treatments for people with Parkinson's out of a house of cards. It just can't happen. And more money into these ideas is not going to solve the problem. And I think a key message here is to tell you that we always say there isn't enough investment into Parkinson's. There are not enough trials. Trust me, there is enough investment into Parkinson's. It's not about how much we're investing, it's where we're investing it. So the story is as if Parkinson's begins with the Lewy bodies. This is what you would see in a microscope. And this is what we have blamed as the villain of the story. And we humans love stories in which there is a villain against which or whom to galvanize. But this is not the beginning, this is the end. The beginning is something that is different in different people. The beginning of the Parkinson's in Mary is going to be different to the beginning of Parkinson's in Jim and George. Because every one of the individuals coming with Parkinson's disease have a different form of expression, have a different biology. Now, what's common, though, is that the protein alpha-synuclein in its normal state reacts against whatever it is trying to cause troubles. And in that process, it transforms into Lewy bodies. But if the reason why this transformation occurs persists, and the brain doesn't fill up the coffers of enough of the protein, then disease begins to appear. But remember, 10 times more of us are having Lewy bodies as we age than the Parkinson's we have framed these Lewy bodies to lead into. And it's interesting that I have to tell to a group of scientists, when I talk about this, that proteins can only function when they are normal. This is a truism. You don't need to do experiments to show that. But it has to be said because we forget about the loss of normal synuclein. We think that the accrual, the gain, the accumulation, all language meant to imply a gain of toxicity of this protein is the problem. And anything that relates prior to that must be irrelevant. And so when synuclein aggregates into Lewy bodies, it transforms from its normal and functional state to its abnormal, no longer functional state. But the story we've said to ourselves is that when it happens to transform, it goes from normal to toxic. That it is not that proteins just lose their function, it's that they acquire toxicity. And it turns out that synuclein is a protein that has been preserved by evolution forever, millions of years before we humans came to Earth. And it is in almost every cell of our bodies, which is why if you do a biopsy anywhere, you can find synuclein. And it might be aggregated because it is reacting. Synuclein, turns out, among its many functions, is part of what we refer to as the innate immune system. It is there. It's one of the first proteins that react against anything. The reaction is defensive, protective, not disease-causing. So essentially, we have here the normal protein, synuclein, that transforms into Lewy pathology. The only marker that we know in the research of Parkinson's that in any way tells us about progression is how low the levels of synuclein are. The lower the levels, the faster the progression. But we have a test called the seed amplification assay, and this is what the Michael J. Fox Foundation has argued is the breakthrough. After millions of dollars invested into the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, or PPMI, to demonstrate that this money is being brought to the best use, we have a test that identifies the presence of Lewy bodies in the spinal fluid. And if that test is positive, we say, we have defined Parkinson's biologically. And it's one of the most dangerous ideas out there, because I've told you, more of us, many more of us, will have the Parkinson's pathology, the Lewy bodies, as a reaction against a variety of different things, but very few of us will have Parkinson's. When we have a compensation strategy, which ends up creating a marker, the Lewy bodies, that compensation could fail. It doesn't mean that all along that was not a compensation, that was a toxic reaction by our own bodies. And think about it for a minute. If synuclein is everywhere in our bodies, evolutionary forces render it redundant. We have alpha-synuclein, beta-synuclein, gamma-synuclein. Do we think that this protein was preserved so that we would have our own built-in toxin from which to generate this thing that we're going to call Parkinson's? If you look at this brain for a moment and just pay attention to the brain, you might see the brain has changed. But you might also have failed to have seen that what has changed around the brain is different. And that's because, yes, the brain changed because it went from low levels of abnormal, pathological, crystallized synuclein to high levels. I say the word crystals because the process of transition that we have is a process that is exactly the same in terms of physics as the crystallization of water into ice. In the case of proteins, we refer to it as polymerization. But what happened is that when we change from water to ice, we have more ice, we have less water. When we go from normal synuclein, because it precipitates into Lewy bodies, we have less normal synuclein, unless we replenish it in some way. So this is no different to what you're seeing here. A bottle of milk, and as you can tell, it's gone bad. You recognize this is a transformation of proteins from its normal, soluble, functional state to a state that we refer to as an amyloid state. It's a very clumped up state called cross beta. It's insoluble, meaning that it might no longer be something we could pick up in a spinal fluid analysis if we were to measure that there. And it's non-functional because you know that milk you'll never drink. You could make the curdles a little less curdly. That's a hard one for me. But you know that the process is largely irreversible. In Lewy bodies are essentially the amyloid state of the normal protein, alpha-synuclein. So I've shown you this, and I just want to tell you that what we've operated under is under one-sided story. We forget that synuclein comes from lower synuclein. So essentially, if I said to you that normal synuclein goes into pathological synuclein, which we call Lewy bodies, and the more of this, the less of the normal protein you have. But if I were not to tell you the story with this other side, and this looks back, this looks like accumulation. And in old textbooks of neurology, Parkinson's is defined as a motor disorder caused by the accumulation of alpha-synuclein into Lewy bodies. That's how we grow into becoming experts in Parkinson's disease. That's the indoctrination we receive. Trouble is that the data doesn't tell us that is what happens. And if that story is false, but it is the one on which we put every money for research, nothing good will happen. Money does not turn bad ideas into good ones, no matter how much of it you put into it. So the test we have is the test of whether or not there is pathology. It's called the alpha-synuclein seed amplification assay. There is a company, Syntap is a test company that does this, essentially has shown that this is a good test. It really is a good test to identify whether or not there is in the tissue you're testing synuclein in an aggregated test, in an aggregated fashion. The seeds is the name of the protein in its clumped up state. And if you have a lot of concentration in the tube, you make that precipitation more likely. So you are facilitating, the test call it amplifying, the sensitivity to detecting the presence of it. And it shows into this graph because there is a fluorescence dye. But you need that concentration because under low concentration, it doesn't matter whether or not that tissue we're testing would have aggregated synuclein. It would not pick it up. So that curve will be flat. I'm showing you this because in the spinal fluid of us humans, the concentration of this protein is measured in a unit called picomolar, picograms per milliliter. Picomolar is very low. And when we have Parkinson's, that concentration goes lower yet. In the laboratory, however, we increase that concentration 1 million-fold. We go from picomolar to millimolar, and that is a lot of a concentration increase. That creates the physical conditions that render the vulnerability of the test high to detect whether or not there is an aggregated synuclein, so that then it precipitates and the precipitation is detected by this test. But if you have a positive test, you're saying yes to the question, is this specimen I am testing containing Lewy bodies? Yes or no, that's it. It doesn't tell you about what we've been told it would, that it tells us about the way Parkinson's came about. We say, in fact, if somebody has a positive seeding test, that someone is seeding synuclein in their brains. And that sounds really bad. Our synuclein is seeding itself. Seeding implies in the language that we use that there is an expansion of synuclein and is infecting other parts of the brain. In fact, the term prion-like is attributed to the spread of synuclein as if it were a very active process, and it is not active, it's crystallization. Entirely dependent on the conditions in which this happens. Nothing to do with how many amino acids alpha-synuclein has, or how its tridimensional structure becomes once it clumps up. All to do with 4 ingredients: pH, temperature, concentration, and what we call a catalyst, which would be in this case the seed. This is adding something that then sets the cascade off. We say in biophysics principles, it lowers the thermodynamic barrier for the precipitation to occur. So a positive alpha-synuclein seed amplification assay is actually quite good in people who have symptoms. In people who have symptoms of Parkinson's, this will be often positive. It has a high sensitivity and specificity to confirm the clinical diagnosis. But it doesn't replace it. Because if you do this in the population level, now the sensitivity and specificity and the predictive value, the ability for that positive test to predict that it will lead to Parkinson's, drops substantially. Because it's a yes-no answer to the question, it's a binary output test. It doesn't discriminate whether it's a kind of Parkinson's that's motor versus no motor, with this dimensional dementia, etc. It doesn't quantify how much of the Lewy bodies there are, much less how much less of the normal synuclein there remains in the tissue. So therefore, it doesn't correlate with the severity of disease of anyone. It doesn't correlate with the rate of progression of anyone. It isn't helpful for the core need of precision medicine, which is biological subtyping, is to understand how people are different from one another, not how they are similar to others. And it definitely cannot be used to monitor any kind of treatment, because once you're positive, that means your body is reacting against something. And remember, more often that reaction is successful. More often that formation of Lewy bodies is homeostatic. That means defensive, protective, good. So all of that to come to the second breakthrough that the Michael J. Fox Foundation is telling us. If you have a positive seed amplification assay, that's the S+ in this staging system. Now we're in the new era staging system. You have A, biologically defined Parkinson's, and B, you are at least at stage 0 of Parkinson's. And this has 3 single letters in this case: S for the positive seed amplification assay, D for a positive or negative DAT scan, and G for a positive or negative genetic test. And by the way, positive or negative just mean, in this case, just one genetic test, the gene for synuclein. Positive, negative. And then FX is actually, what kind of matters is the symptoms, FX functional. So of course, then essentially from stage 0 to 6, you will see that it goes from FX minus all the way to FX plus plus plus. Means you really have a lot of symptoms. That's the only one that kind of makes sense, right? In the staging system, you would think that the more symptoms, the worse you be. Now, this assumes, as I mentioned, that S+ means disease, and I hope by now you know that isn't true. This also assumes that 2 letters is worse than 1 letter, and that's not true necessarily. This also assumes that this accrual of letters progresses rightward only, and that isn't true. This assumes a linear progression, may or may not be true. And it turns out that when this staging system was applied to the PPMI, the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, using the first 5 years of data, it showed, number one, that 70% of patients or greater were already at stages 3 or greater, the stages in which we now have symptoms. Levodopa, which, as you know, is a very powerful symptomatic therapy, led to stage regression. People who were stage 4 moved into stage 3. People who were stage 5 moved into stage 4. That makes no sense. And much more importantly, that all of the markers of cell degeneration that we use for research, serum NFL is neurofilament light, A beta 42 in spinal fluid, tau, total, and phosphorylated, all of these did not differ across any of these stages. So in other words, this was a falsification of the staging system. I actually put out a letter with a number of my colleagues to say we should not hold on to this staging system because the validation study doesn't validate it. And the response was damning. All of the arguments that Espe and colleagues have given us are in fact further proof of the validation of this staging system. You see what you want to see, but if it ain't true, it won't help our patients. And research should not be about me being right and everybody being wrong. Nobody cares who's right or wrong. I've been wrong too many times. I've told my patients that 3 years ago I thought I saw X disease, and now I think it's different. It might be that I thought it was Parkinson's, now it's different. And I don't think I've not yet been penalized by anybody saying, wait a minute, then that means this is terrible. You're changing your mind. I changed my mind because the data changes, because the data must change us. And all of my patients deserve us, me included, not to be married to any ideas. We have to pursue the truth because only by searching for the truth, our patients will be liberated. And it's, again, not about this. The ideas that I'm telling you about might be all false too, but at least they are a completely different view of where we've been. Because we have nothing to show for the millions and millions of dollars invested. And while we can blame the molecules we've used, the tests we've used, the design and execution of our trials, we also have to look at the ideas that inspired all of that effort. And this is where you make a difference. If I say what I said to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, yeah, Dr. Espe, yeah, I'm sure, interesting ideas. We've already looked into them, and it's not, I think that you're missing a few things here. But if you speak up to the Michael J. Fox Foundation when they send you a mail saying, we're so much closer to the cure thanks to your gift, that's powerful. What are you doing? Has it ever been demonstrated that this test of pathology would change anything if we know that pathology already is not the cause of Parkinson's, is the cause of living? Not even, it's a consequence of living. It's a marker, not a maker. We've conflated that. And we have already been quite successful at changing the marker quite well. We just have nothing to show for it. And by the way, if you do this test at a population level, many, perhaps most people will not develop Parkinson's, and yet they're branded as having biologically defined Parkinson's. And they acknowledge this. Individuals in stage 1A, which is positive alpha-synuclein seed amplification, asymptomatic, could remain in this stage indefinitely. This is a quote from their staging system. Wouldn't that alone invalidate that staging system? I just wanted to end with the idea that, honestly, the main finding from the PPMI, and I thank the Michael J. Fox Foundation for this and many other things, because the data from the PPMI has helped us look at things and realize we have to change. But the one thing that to me has been very important is to recognize that the only marker that we currently measure that's telling us something about progression is how little of the normal synuclein we can measure in the spinal fluid. The lower the levels of synuclein, the faster the progression. And it makes such good sense. We are losing synuclein in the process of it being reactive, defending us, not trying to cause disease, defending us. So it behooves us to think of ways to prop it up. So just to end, this is a way to think of Parkinson's that is holistic. It just doesn't look at one side and forget us about the other one. Here we say there is a cause that varies from Mary to Jim to George. That is the source of future precision medicine. Currently invisible in research, except in Cincinnati, in our Cincinnati cohort biomarker program. That's what we're trying to look at what makes each of our patients different, unique, separate from others with the same diagnostic label. But that cause is leading to a reactive precipitation of normal synuclein into pathological synuclein. And the consequence, of course, is just the Lewy bodies. As you can imagine, there is a period of loss that is compensated, meaning we can afford to lose a certain level of the protein. But at a certain point, we go from no symptoms to symptoms because the levels of the normal protein drop below a certain threshold of compensation, and disease appears. Rescue medicine is what we could do here, is the increase in the levels of the normal protein. We have demonstrated that this is experimentally feasible in animal models, so we have preclinical evidence that this is true. And that doesn't require from us to know how you're different to each other. This is still allowing us lumping. Now, splitting is mandatory for precision medicine. Splitting means that what's going to cure Mary's disease might be irrelevant to Jim and George because the cause of the disease is different, but that is where we're heading into. That's what we need to. So the master plan is, number one, we have to move as a society away from clearing the bad stuff as we think is bad, recognizing what we've called the bad stuff is the markers of a reactive brain, and moving to protein replacement strategies. It behooves us that in a process of loss, what we're losing is what we need to replace. And that's called rescue medicine. We also must determine how is it that each of us are unique. And that model is best from the field of oncology. Let's imagine that I'm an oncologist just delivering a diagnosis in an oncology mindset. Based on everything we're seeing here today in your examination, you have something called Parkinson's disease. I have no idea what it means. We have to do this test, this thing, to find out what disease you actually have. We're going to call it Parkinson's disease, just like we would call it brain cancer, brain cancer or liver cancer or breast cancer, right? In the model of oncology, a disease that we're giving a label to, the oncologist immediately isn't clear what it means to that person. So we would say that to someone and then hasten that by saying, meanwhile, there is levodopa to make you feel better, because levodopa replaces dopamine, but it doesn't change what is causing the reason why dopamine is low. And then, and this is very important, that in any future trial of putative disease-modifying or neuroprotective interventions, we must match the molecule's mechanism of action to the individual's most likely to biologically benefit. That's what is done in every other field of medicine. It's not that you get the mice experiments showing that a molecule has cured Parkinson's in mice and you say, oh, now we need to give it to people with Parkinson's. So here's where if anybody invites you to a treatment trial for slowing Parkinson's progression, your question must be, why me? Well, because you have Parkinson's and you're kind of early, so you're in a good situation. No. Why me in terms of benefiting from a therapy, and why would I benefit more than others? Biologically, the success can only happen if you're matching the molecule action, the biological change, to the biological subtype of individuals. That's what other fields of medicine have done. First successes in precision medicine will be small. But then we grow from there. That is what has been done. And that's precision medicine. Of course, these two things do not need to be separate. We can grow them together. That is what we're also doing at the University of Cincinnati. With that, I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that I've left some time for discussion. I've left very little. I took a little longer. I apologize, Chris.
That's quite all right, Doctor. Thank you very much. And we do have time for questions. So we'll ask that if you have a question for Dr. Espay, if you'll raise your hand, we'll bring the mic to you. And we have a couple right here.
Hi, Dr. Espay. Do you have anything on a positive note?
Oh, okay. So thank you for that question. I have a problem with empty hope. I could say to you, guys, be hopeful, there will be a cure. I grew up with that. I like warm and fuzzy things. Hope without a scientific basis is empty hope. To me, the most positive message is that these ideas that I've pointed out to you are beginning to change the field. 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was a bit on the crazy side. I'm not on the crazy side anymore. What's going to give us hope is to determine that we've done quite well in testing our ideas, and the ideas that we've tested are logical, but now we know they're false. We need to move away from them. We have ideas that are alternative, and we can test them. We can falsify them too, but we must move to other ideas. And we are going to have the first, we're working intensively with the FDA at the moment to work on a protein replacement strategy for the first time, first ever in the world, at the University of Cincinnati, beginning in the summer. And I'm very happy that Pat and Mike have, in fact, contributed substantially to that effort. This is not an idea that would be funded. By the way, we go to review boards of the NIH or foundations, and they say, it is crazy. Are you telling us to give people more of the protein we know is toxic? It is like giving them gas to the fire, right? Because we already know what Parkinson's is. And the concept of Parkinson's is over a century old. We have to change it. We have to admit that that thing that I call Parkinson's, just because I'm an expert, doesn't make me an arbiter of biology. I'm just saying, you're checking all the boxes that I'm instructed to check. So yeah, you have Parkinson's, but let's be honest, we don't know what it is. That's why when you have come to the University of Cincinnati, nobody's saying to you, well, you have Parkinson's and you're in stage 2, right? No, we don't need staging because everybody's different, and there are many people that refuse to move from one stage to another, despite the fact that we know this is a single disease and staging should be equal to everyone. Yes, so what you can do, and the reason I'm very motivated to speak here and to speak in patient groups is because you have a lot more power than I do, and I mean it. These ideas that I have could be just from a bit of a crazy scientist. Thank you. I was trying not to say that, but I guess might as well say it. Absolutely, yes. Whereas, and you know, to us in the field, this is a debate of ideas. It's intellectually stimulating. To you is a level beyond it. To you is about, right? And by the way, ideas are good, but ideas must all be, if scientific, falsifiable. We are the field with the lowest rate of hypothesis falsification in medicine. When trials fail, it's not that ideas were problematic. It's that the molecule wasn't good enough, the dose was too high or too low, that the measurements to capture change were insensitive, that the penetration of the molecule in the spinal fluid was not adequate. It's always about the problems, right, with that. Or the patients were too advanced. We need to give them much earlier. And while early might be better if we know what we're doing, early has never been the solution to a problem that wasn't in any way moved in the disease stage. In cancer, you get people that the cancer gets better, or get maybe slowed. The connection is made between the intervention and who those people were. And then that creates an assay that we can bring to early and now select those individuals that therapy later worked very well, and now we can even prevent their cancer. But the idea, like, we fail here, but if we were to give all of these failed therapies early, that won't work. So I think one of my simple pledges when I go to speak in scientific groups is to say, what will it take to falsify this idea? And when I ask a question, sometimes I get the answer, well, that's a weird question. Well, every trial has a hypothesis. If so, what would be the trial results that if we received it, we can falsify the idea? And it's very hard to do. So the power that patients have is that you don't have to get the false hopes, right? Because it's nice, and I think that's why the Michael J. Fox Foundation is so effective with the fundraising. They tell you that they're there until Parkinson's isn't. It's a beautiful, warm idea. The success in cancer research came when they abandoned the idea of curing cancer. But look at the cures that have occurred. Once it was clear that breast cancer was not one bad disease of the breast, but many, then, this was just in the early 80s. And now we have a universe in which 75% of breast cancers fall under 20 different molecular biological classes with treatments, and in many cases, those treatments are curative. So when you ask, when are we going to cure Parkinson's? That's not the right answer, the right question. Because everybody's going to give you an estimate. And since I was a medical student, people say, oh, it's going to take 5, maybe 10 years. That's baloney. In 2017, the 200-year anniversary of the shaking palsy, the essay that Dr. James Parkinson's put together on 3 people he examined, and 3 he's on the street. Somebody, a big professor, 2017 was asked, how close are we to the cure? This is what he said. Well, when you work on puzzles, you know how is it that you start working on the corners, and you look at the edges, right? We have the corners and the edges all figured out. Is that warm and fuzzy to you? It sounds like it sounds right. It's a beautiful thing to say. So I want to make sure that hope is centered on science and centered on evidence, and that we are not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about pursuing the truth, and you should demand it. You should demand it. For when the Michael J. Fox Foundation says we have a breakthrough, it's going to get us closer to the cure. It's exactly the word. You have to explain how. How is that getting us closer to the cure? And will there be a cure? I was told that Parkinson's is different, that no 2 people are alike. And we have that cognitive dissonance that we need to break away from. We can say to someone, you have your own brand of Parkinson's. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Next sentence. Be hopeful, there will be a cure for Parkinson's. And if you're discerning, you say, well, hold on a second, you just said that I was unique. How could there be a treatment that will work just the same and everybody as unique as I am? We cannot have it both ways. We cannot be warm and fuzzy in every sense. We have to recognize Parkinson's is a problem that will be solved, and the moment we recognize everybody's different. But there are things that are common, and protein replacement, to me, in terms of the things that can happen soon, is very helpful. Very helpful. It's been super hard to do because this is happening as a result of philanthropy. It couldn't happen otherwise. It couldn't happen otherwise. But thanks for that question. It gave me an opportunity to expand a little bit more. There were other questions. We'll have no time. I'm told we have no time. I apologize. I overextended, but I'm an email away. I'm pretty responsive to email. If you ask me a question that's relatively easy to answer without an essay, I'm happy to answer. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Doctor. With that, we will thank all of you who came. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you. We'll thank all of you for coming this year. I will keep the commercial really short. Steady Strides happens in September 19th. It happens at the Lindner Family Tennis Center again. We were there for many years, had to go away for a couple while they were renovating, but we're back there. You can simply go to parkinsoncincinnati.org and look for Steady Strides, and you'll have the opportunity to learn about the race, how to put together a team, how to register, etc. Or as you're leaving, I think there may be still a few handouts about Steady Strides. Other than that, thanks for spending your Saturday with us. It's always wonderful to get our community together. We appreciate your coming today. If you have evaluations, you can just leave them on the table. We'll pick them up as we clean up. If you have any more hearts for Maureen, you can also leave those on the table and we will grab those. Thanks, everyone. Have a great great weekend. Hopefully, it looks like the sun's out, so we'll have a nice weather. Bye now.